Hello guys, welcome back to Fanfic Dojo. Today we will be listening to What If Naruto Fell in Love with Kurenai Part 2. It was on such short notice, but because of their unsupervised and reckless decision of their Junin instructor, Team 7 had entered in the Chunin exams. It was not going to be an easy 2 weeks for them, with their training turning all the more intensive. Kakashi was busy preparing his team and had no time for Naruto, not that the blonde minded. He was perfectly capable of training by himself. He, Naruto, had after all, already proven to Kakashi that he was almost a genius. Kakashi had to admit to himself that Naruto was better than him when he himself was his age. And Naruto would always make him remember that he was. Currently, Team 7 were at a nearby river, practicing their techniques and skill level. Kurenai was finding a rather hard time motivating Shikamaru to fight with his all when facing her in an all-out taijutsu battle, to no avail. Meanwhile, Kiba and Naruto had made tremendous progress in their taijutsu. The pair of them had made a scoreboard on their wins and losses against each other. Naruto was leading the board after 1 week with a score of 13-1. Kiba was having a rather hard time keeping up with Naruto, who had a taijutsu style that he had made out of one of Konoha's best taijutsu fighting styles that he had witnessed, Jiyuken. Naruto, come on, let me show you my new move. Kiba called out to his friend. The two were currently about to begin their 15th spar of the week. The two of them knew that each other had improved in their respective taijutsu styles, win or lose. Kiba was getting more strength and Naruto was getting faster than before. Kiba and Naruto were now equal in their strength, but Naruto definitely had the edge when it came to speed and strategy. The blonde had known from his brother that being reckless would only result in death, but it took him 5 years to understand. Alright, Kiba, I'll go easy on you if you don't want to cry. Naruto teased. It's you who's going to cry, Naruto. Kiba set down Akamaru. Naruto's eyes focused on Akamaru. The dog and the boy were a very good tag team, and because he had not understood their planning, had resulted in his first and only loss to Kiba 2 days ago. Naruto vowed never to take his eyes off those that were involved in a battle with him, even if one of them was a puppy. Suga. Kiba spun in Naruto's direction and Naruto sidestepped. A cream-white blur suddenly came his way, trying to tackle him to the ground. It was Akamaru, of course. Naruto sidestepped again to avoid being bashed. Kiba was coming at him from behind now. Naruto did not have time to dodge the blow. The blonde spun a 180-degree spin and forced chakra to the palm of his hand and thrusting it to the center of Kiba's spinning motion. The dog-using boy suddenly stopped in his tracks, surprising him. Naruto had put enough chakra into the palm of his hand to stop Kiba. He knew that Kiba's motion was like a spinning top, but once the center of the top was stopped, the spinning would cease as well. Naruto had did it on this theory and tested it against Kiba. It was a success. Oh, he's figured out the weakness of my Suga. Kiba thought. Luckily for Kiba, Akamaru was there to save him. The puppy came charging at Naruto, who was about to strike Kiba down. Instead of him landing a blow to Kiba now, Naruto was forced to retreat or else he would be on the ground. Thank you, Akamaru. That was lucky, Kiba said to his canine companion. Kiba turned back to his opponent, who was in a rather interesting fighting stance. I don't know if I can do this, but I saw Kakashi do it without much trouble. Is Naruto trying to attempt the Jiyuken? I've seen him do a Jiyuken-related style, but he can't be attempting to do a Jiyuken stance. Kiba said to himself. Kiba pondered the thoughts of a successful Jiyuken move. It might result in a serious injury for him, and if the move failed, Naruto would have his own chakra release points, Tenketsus, closed for an undeterminable period of time. And as a result of Naruto's Tenketsus being closed, he would not be able to perform techniques. Kiba seriously did not know what to do. Stop Naruto from continuing or fight on. Naruto, are you trying to imitate the Jiyuken? Don't try it, you'll hurt yourself. Don't worry about it, Kiba, Just come at me, I'll be ready. Kiba hoped he knew what Naruto was actually doing. If not, then one of them would end up in the hospital. If it was Naruto, it would be his closed tenketsu. If Kiba, a lot of broken bones and a number of punctured internal organs. Kiba charged at his sparring partner, who was concentrating intently. Kiba spun like a tornado as Naruto's eyes were closed, beads of sweat going down his face. It was looking like Kiba would get a direct hit in Naruto's open areas. Jiyuken. Naruto called out, thrusting his palm forward, releasing chakra. Naruto had done it, but it was not a complete or perfect Jiyuken move. The release of chakra from his palm tenketsu was much less than what he had intended to release. But this time Naruto knew it was not due to the chakra control, it was due to the fact that he did not have the Byakugan, as the Hyuga clan's bloodline limit had a way of circulating the chakra perfectly when it was activated. But as Naruto did not have the Byakugan, or even any other bloodline limit, for that matter. He thrust the palm of his hand forward, releasing chakra toward Kiba's direction. Kiba stopped his spin immediately to block Naruto's move, but as soon as his left hand neared the hand that had already been activated with Naruto's own Jiyuken move, he retreated with Akamaru, a slight pain. What? He's already completed a Jiyuken move. He's getting better, Kiba thought. Naruto was tired beyond measure due to the activation of tenketsu in his hands. It was truly a hard thing to do if you did not have the Byakugan aspect of being able to redirect chakra to your tenketsu and increasing the circulation. But Naruto was able to, and Kiba himself was still looking on in shock at his friend. Naruto charged at Kiba, who, with his beast-like agility, ducked at the oncoming fist. Behind Kiba was Akamaru, who surprised Naruto with an effort to tackle him. The blonde dodged the dog to his left side as Kiba came in with an uppercut, sending Naruto flying. Naruto got into his unique fighting stance spawned from the Jiyuken. It was the same taijutsu style that he had shown Zabuza before, Kage Senpu. A style that Naruto had developed from seeing the weaknesses of the Jiyuken that Kakashi had copied from a Hyuga. It was not going to be easy to copy the fighting style, so while Naruto was still learning, he had developed the Kage Senpu, a fighting style that was effective in the air, but faster executed on the ground. Kakashi had went up against Naruto in a taijutsu battle. Naruto used his Kage Senpu fighting style and had knocked Kakashi unconscious with the final move of the lightning-fast ground combo, Ryuken. Kiba was about to experience the airborne version of Naruto's infamous combo and he did not even bother to even dodge any incoming blows. It was to be a world of pain. Kage Senpu. First move. Naruto shouted, and Kiba cursed as he heard him. Naruto spun like a windmill, delivering a chakra-enhanced punch in the form of an open palm to Kiba, sending the boy almost crashing toward the ground. Kage Senpu. Second move. Naruto had reached the ground before Kiba and used his two hands, palms open and pushing Kiba back into the air and a kick as well. Kiba winced in pain as the blonde jumped higher than him and stabbed him in the chest, causing the pain for him to escalate to a new level. Naruto was about to go on. Kage Senpu. Third move. Naruto continued stabbing Kiba's body at a fast speed. Naruto did not continue his moves any further as Kiba dropped to the ground. The boy was still conscious and wincing in pain. Kurenai and Kiba ran over to the two boys to check up on Kiba, who smiling in all his pain. Kurenai was plain shocked. She had known about Naruto's taijutsu moves from Kakashi, who said that it was the only thing that Naruto could beat him at. But she had never expected to see such a flurry of moves executed as though it was nothing but a dance. Naruto, do you think that you could teach me that? Kiba asked, grinning. Kiba was still on the ground, clutching his ribs and chest in pain from the moves. Sure, but I'll only teach you 3 out of the 7 moves first. Naruto replied. Kiba would live to regret those words that he had agreed to without thinking. Team 7 was at their usual training ground the day before the Chunin exams. The week had been a literal hell for them, especially for Naruto and Kiba. Kiba was having an extremely hard time trying to learn the first 3 moves of Naruto's airborne cage senpu. The speed required was almost maddening for him. There had to be perfect balance and coordination during the combo, and Kiba had to do it in less than a week. It was going to be his trump card in case he had to fight one-on-one. Naruto could not help but feel proud about the fact that Kiba had already completed the first 2 moves. Though they were not perfect, they still inflicted significant damage, as Kiba's original style of fighting was a beast-like brawling style. To increase the effects to what they were now, Naruto had advised him in converting the rushing attacks of his original taijutsu style to the airborne cage senpu. It worked. Kiba's attacks with the moves were more devastating than his Suga attacks. The past few days had been hell for Naruto in quite a few ways. The Gyuken was to be mastered and learned so he could be prepared to face any enemies and not waste chakra with his cage senpu. In a way, the Gyuken moves were more powerful than Naruto's cage senpu. The attacks were not as rushed, but the one thing that Naruto's cage senpu had over the Gyuken was the flexibility of his fighting style. Where the Gyuken required various stances, as Naruto had observed, his cage senpu could be executed in almost any condition as long as the enemy was within range. But on an overall basis, the Gyuken was more powerful than the fighting style Naruto had developed. And the only way, as Naruto had discovered from his brother Kakashi's fight with another Hyuga, the Gyuken could be defeated in a taijutsu battle was with another Gyuken. It was simply the best taijutsu style that was there. Alright guys, you've all done very well with your improvements on skill. Kurenai said to them, Kiba, Naruto, Shikamaru, I hope that you all are ready. Naruto and Kiba could have sworn that they had heard Shikamaru say, I'm not. Kurenai looked at her team. Their bodies were worn out, by the looks of things. Kiba's jacket was slightly roughed up and had visible tears on it from learning Naruto's cage senpu, while Shikamaru just looked as clean as whistle, since he did not bother to practice anything but his mind for the last few days, which was still hell for him. Except for a bandaged hand from hitting the ground too hard in frustration. Naruto. He had the worst week of his life trying to learn the fighting style of the Hyuga. The blonde was convinced that what he had done during his spar with Kiba was a definite fluke. He could not do it again after the fight until the day before, and that was too weak as well, compared to the real Hyuga Gyuken. On the night before, the blonde did not sleep at all trying to learn the moves and techniques the Gyuken had up its sleeve. Needless to say, it was not a success. So Naruto, did you finally get the Gyuken right? Kiba asked his friend. Naruto shook his head as he looked to his hands that were burnt with the excess chakra that he had accumulated the night before. Kurenai looked to Naruto pityingly. The boy was just too hardworking at times, even if she did understand that Naruto's dream. No one, let alone a Hyuga, could learn the Gyuken within a week. It's alright, Naruto. You're not even a Hyuga, and even they have a hard time. Naruto understood that, but he wanted to prove to Kakashi that he could be the best, overcoming even him. Kakashi had issued that challenge to Naruto before. And at the end of that day, he saw his brother use the Gyuken, the most powerful taijutsu style in Konoha. At the time, Naruto did not know what it was except that it was a powerful style. And from that, Naruto developed the cage senpu. Well, maybe you'll get it at the end of the year if you train as hard as you can. Naruto smiled to Kiba and thanked him for the words. Kurenai smiled at them. Why don't we all go to Ichiraku Ramen? My treat. Kurenai said, beaming. There were 3 very eager nods from the boys as they made their way to Ichiraku Ramen, battle-hardened from the training that had been issued to them for the week. Hey look, Naruto. It's Team 8 and your brother. Shikamaru pointed out. Team 8 was eating their ramen at the counter, their bodies not as tired looking or as worn out from their training. Kakashi turned to face Naruto. I knew that you'd be coming, Naruto. Kakashi said, a happy tone in his voice. Well, ramen is pretty much all I eat aside from what I cook, so of course you'd know I'd be here. After all, I'm a bit too tired to cook myself. Naruto said. He took a seat to Kakashi's left as Kiba took a seat to Naruto's left. So what will it be today, Naruto? The old man that owned the shop asked. Miso ramen for me please, old man. Naruto said cheerfully, smiling. The old man nodded to his favorite customer before going on to ask the others what they wanted to eat. Kiba and Shikamaru ordered the same as Naruto while Kurenai just ordered a vegetarian ramen as to watch her figure, as Naruto put it. So you've finished training for the Chunin exams, Naruto? Kakashi questioned. Yes. Naruto replied simply, taking a slurp of his ramen as he did so. You think that you're ready for the exams then? Kakashi continued. That I'll leave up to you, Kakashi Nichin. Naruto said, apparently smirking. Naruto finished his bowl of ramen and thanked Kurenai before walking off with Kakashi to the middle of the woods. If one could see under their masks, it would show that both of them were either smiling, grinning or smirking. The sun was setting in the distance as the two of them finally reached the nearby woods. Naruto was facing Kakashi, around 20 feet away from him, both of them looking almost like mirror images of each other except that Naruto was blonde and Kakashi had white hair. The sun was going down slowly, the rays all the more intense. The shorter of the two males clenched and unclenched his fists. All out, Naruto called out to Kakashi, who nodded to him. Kakashi cracked his knuckles and massaged his wrists before revealing his Sharingan, signaling that this fight would be one of dramatic proportions. Naruto stood on there, unmoving, his arms to the side and his eyes looking right into Kakashi's normal eye and the blood-red iris of the Sharingan. Shuriken, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto and Kakashi threw a shuriken to each other and those shurikens each multiplied into 4 other shurikens and clashed. The sound of metal clashing could be heard as Naruto and Kakashi each drew out a kunai and charged at each other, each performing extremely quick slashes. Each of their slashes met with the kunai the other was holding and Naruto was feeling that if he kept up in close combat with the kunais he would lose. Naruto jumped back and formed 2 fingers on each hand to shape a cross and called out a shadow clone. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Kakashi called out, creating a shadow clone of himself. Naruto could not keep up when Kakashi had the Sharingan, he might have drawn a few battles with him when it was activated, but that was all. The only time that he could beat Kakashi in a fight was in a taijutsu spar. The 2 clones stabbed each other in the chest, canceling out each other. Naruto, watch this, Kakashi called out, performing a number of hand seals and grabbing the ground with his 2 hands, and held up a boulder around 5 times his size. Naruto looked on in horror as Kakashi smirked, Doden, Dorio Dango. Kakashi threw the boulder at the spot where the Sharingan had predicted Naruto to be. Naruto clenched his teeth as the large boulder closed in on him. The boulder looked to have crushed Naruto as Kakashi sighed at his brother. Kakashi knew that that kind of attack would not be able to defeat Naruto. Behind me, Kakashi said lazily and turned around to see that no one was there. Over here, Naruto bellowed, a boulder 10 times his size in his hands over him. Kakashi could be seen gaping under his face mask, Doden, Dorio Dango. Naruto had purposely gotten hit by Kakashi's attack so he could prepare for the next. The boulder was thrown Kakashi's way, which Kakashi barely dodged. I've really taught you well, Naruto, Kakashi thought as he watched Naruto. Suddenly, Naruto poofed into nothing. Kakashi's eyes widened as he felt a presence behind him. Naruto was there, airborne with a kick directed at him. Kakashi was hit squarely in the face by the kick, sending him flying to the ground. But Kakashi was a ninja and had a fast reaction speed, almost as fast as the Hokage. With that reaction speed, Kakashi jumped back into a standing position. Jiyuken? Naruto questioned, worried as faced his brother's new fighting stance. The Jiyuken position was copied by Kakashi from a Hyuga some time ago, and since he had seen it, Kakashi had adopted the moves of the taijutsu style many times. I can't face the Jiyuken. With Kakashi Nichin's fast reaction speed and technique, I can't possibly be able to keep up with him if I go in close, Naruto thought. Kakashi came charging at him with lightning-fast speed, hitting Naruto's right shoulder, sealing one tenketsu, followed by another on his left thigh and another on the blonde's left arm. Before Naruto could be hit by the next moves, he jumped backwards and spun while he was upside down on his right palm to get away. Damn it! Naruto cursed as Kakashi got into another fighting stance. A very familiar fighting stance. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw what Kakashi was doing. Naruto gritted his teeth as he got up, flexing his fingers. Kage Senpuu, Kakashi Nichin must have got that off me during our spar. But since Naruto was the creator of the Kage Senpuu, he knew its weaknesses. If Kakashi Nichin's going to use the ground style that I used on him, I have a small chance of getting him in his weak spot, but if I time it wrong, I'll be minced meat. Naruto put his left hand forward, palm facing Kakashi, and his other hand was covering the lower part of his face. His left foot was put forward. Kage Senpuu. First move. Kakashi launched a kick to Naruto's stomach. He retreated quickly before spinning like a tornado and went on to trip Naruto. Kage Senpuu. Second move. Kakashi went on to do a series of finger labs to Naruto's upper body. He had to endure all this until he reached the weak moment. Wait for it, Naruto. If you miss, you lose. Naruto mentally shouted to himself. Kage Senpuu. Third move. The Junin called out as Naruto stood prepared. Kakashi proceeded to roll very quickly in the air before landing a two-footed kick to Naruto's throat, almost making the boy pass out from all the pain. This next move is the weak spot for the combo, I'll have to take my chance. Kakashi jumped away, and by grabbing Naruto's jacket, brought him along with him. It was not going to be easy for Naruto to take his chance. The Junin was about to continue the combo, but Naruto had finally found the weakness he had waited so patiently to exploit. Kakashi's right arm was almost fully extended and Naruto had found his target, the left side of Kakashi, chest. Naruto grabbed the Junin vest that Kakashi wore and begun his counter moves. Kage Senpuu. Counter move sequence. Naruto called out as the Junin's eyes widened in shock and in pain of Naruto's fast finger jab to his body. Naruto quickly begun to do a series of lightning-fast kicks in midair to Kakashi's body, mostly near his head and upper body. It ended with a heel drop to his head. It was lucky that Kakashi was wearing a forehead protector or that move would have hurt twice as much than it already did. Kakashi coughed out blood. Naruto had backed away almost 15 feet from Kakashi, body extremely battered. He panted as he observed his brother slowly get up, just as battered as he was. Kakashi and Naruto then proceeded to perform identical hand seals and once again, the ears of the two heard the sound of 1,000 birds chirping. It took you a year, Naruto, but I'm glad that you've gotten this far with the Chidori. Now, Kakashi drew the Chidori back, let's see how good it's gotten. Naruto charged at Kakashi as the latter did the same, hands were in a thrusting motion. They were not holding back, it was time to see how far Naruto had come. Chidori. Team 7 had just entered the building that held the Chunin exams. They were all nervous at what they might face on this day, and out of the three boys, only Shikamaru was good at hiding his nervousness. They walked up the stairs until they reached a floor where a group of genins were gathered. Hey, what in the world is going on here? Kiba questioned, looking to the crowd. They saw a girl with her hair up in two buns being pushed to the ground by a Chunin. Naruto frowned at this act. They could not have done that, not to a girl. This test ain't for weaklings like yourselves. The Chunin barked. Naruto looked and saw Uchiha Sasuke walking to the Chunins and smirked. Why don't you just drop the genjutsu? I want to go to room 301, not 201. Sasuke said smugly as the Chunin smirked at the brunette. Naruto, along with Shikamaru, had figured that out as soon as he came to this floor. There was no way a room that had a as a first number beyond the second floor. Naruto continued to walk to the next floor, which showed the true room 301. Naruto continued to walk with his friends until they reached the room and were going to open the door until he heard a shout. It was a strange boy in a green jumpsuit and a red forehead protector around his waist. He was addressing Sasuke, who was smirking at him. He jumped to cut the space between him and Sasuke to a short distance. You must be Uchiha Sasuke, correct? The boy asked Sasuke, who merely smirked. Who wants to know? Sasuke said smugly at the boy, hands in his pockets. I am Rock Lee. I wish to fight you. Lee said to him, getting into a stance. So you're another guy who wants to get his butt kicked, Sasuke drawled. Sasuke-kun, we can't delay or we'll be late for the exams. Sakura said. Naruto took an interest in the green-clad boy and approached them. Naruto, where are you going? Kiba asked Naruto, who apparently grinned. I want to watch a fight, and maybe I might join in too, he said simply. Kiba stood gaping at his friend's simplicity as he walked to Sasuke's group. If we get into a fight here we'll waste time, Sasuke-kun. Ino reasoned. It will take only 5 minutes, Ino, Sakura. Sasuke said to them. Hey, guys. Naruto greeted the group of people that stood before him. Sasuke, Sakura, Ino and Lee turned to the newcomer. Sasuke frowned at him. Well, I got knocked unconscious by my little brother yesterday. Sasuke could not believe his ears when he had heard Kakashi say that. It was true, but both of them had been knocked unconscious by the force of their Chidoris. The match had ended in a very close draw for Naruto. Who are you, if I may ask? Lee asked the boy with the face mask. Me. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. And you may be. Naruto turned to Lee. I am Rock Lee and I intend to fulfill my philosophy that hard work can beat a genius. Rock Lee said energetically, too energetically. Well, Lee, you see, we have the written exam to attend to now. Why don't you and Sasuke fight after the exams? I'm sure that it will be less rushed. Your logic is good, Naruto-kun, but to uphold my philosophy I have to show the proof that it is true. Lee said with the same tone as before. Alright, fight me, Naruto said to the green-clad boy, who raised one of his fuzzy eyebrows. It almost made Naruto giggle. Fight me, I'm a genius too. Lee almost laughed at Naruto but calmed down and forced himself not to. I don't want to fight you, Naruto-kun, I want to fight with Sasuke-kun. I'm sorry but he is a true genius. I want to prove my ability against his, not yours. Naruto took this as an insult and dashed at Lee, laying a kick to his jaw. What? This Naruto is extremely fast, almost as fast as me. Lee flipped back on all fours and dashed to Naruto, who countered by sliding his back on Lee's back so Lee's fist missed him. Lee was fast, even for Naruto, but if there was one thing that Naruto did know it was that he had better reaction speed. He grabbed Lee's head and pinned him to the ground as Sasuke watched with his Sharingan. Naruto's speed was amazing. 2 people were watching the battle. Lee, what do you think that you are doing? It was the girl with buns in her hair. The other person was a boy, a Hyuga with long flowing chocolate brown hair. Ah, Tenten-chan, Neji, Lee exclaimed as his friends walked over to him. Naruto released his hold over Lee and led him up. Suddenly, there was a poof of smoke and the smoke revealed a man who looked just like Lee on the back of a turtle with a red shell. Naruto knew who it was. Lee, what do you think you are doing picking a fight with people before the exams even begin? The man barked to Lee, who hung his head in shame. Hello, Guy-san, Naruto greeted the man, waving a hand at him. Well, if it isn't Naruto. Guy said in return, you've adopted his look, Yeah, the element of mystery seems to take its affect on most females. Guy laughed as he ruffled Naruto's hair. Lee looked from one person to the other, confused. So were his 2 teammates, Neji and Tenten. Guy-sensei, may I ask who is this? Lee asked his instructor. This is the little brother to my greatest rival ever, Hatake Kakashi. Guy claimed. Naruto sighed. He knew that Kakashi only considered him as entertainment and a close friend, but the man had always kept going on with his remarks about the flames of youth, or something like that, and to prove that he was better than Kakashi. Naruto liked Guy very much because of his upbeat and funny style. Well, you kids better hurry along. And Lee, I forgive you for your mistake against the flames of youth. And if you should watch Naruto in the exam, be sure to learn from him, for he is a true genius. Another thing that Naruto liked about Guy was his good compliments about him. He disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving the group of genins. Please accept my humble apologies, Naruto-kun. I misjudged you. If we should meet again, I hope that you could teach me more. Lee held out his hand. Naruto shook it before his eyes bolted up in realization. We only have a minute until the exam starts. Naruto entered the room along with Sasuke and his team and Neji with his team. They were just in time for the exams, and Naruto's teammates Kiba and Shikamaru were in a corner talking to each other about one thing or the other. Shikamaru seemed to be the dominant one in the conversation. Naruto walked over to them along with Team 8 following behind him. They seemed to be awed by the number of ninjas that the examination hall held. It contained no fewer than at least 500 genins that were aspiring to be chunins. Sakura looked slightly scared in Naruto's eyes. So these guys are all the chunin hopefuls just like us, Naruto said. Shikamaru just realized that Naruto had finally arrived with Team 8 in tow behind him. Kiba looked to be slightly outraged by Naruto's previous actions. Naruto, why in the world did you just run off like that? Do you want us to fail? Ah, sorry about that, Kiba, I just saw a very interesting fight about to start. And I guess I kinda joined in with them. The guy's name is Rock Lee, I think. He'll be one of the teams that we'll go head to head in the field exam. Naruto explained. Field exam? Kiba questioned, raising an eyebrow at his friend. Shikamaru sighed. There are 3 stages in the Chunin exam, Shikamaru began, slightly annoyed by his teammates' unknowingness. The first stage is what we're doing now. It's a written exam, and what we're supposed to do is get a high mark or something. The second stage is the field exam, where you and your team go on a specific search and deliver test. Usually it involves having to retrieve some stones from a specific area or some items in the course. The third exam is the one that I personally think that we're going to fail. They're one-on-one battles between genins until the chunin is decided. How come you know so much, Shikamaru? Naruto asked his brunette friend. Well, I spent most of my time training my brain and knowledge instead of techniques. I'm kinda weak, but my brain, Shikamaru tapped his head, is the most powerful tool I have. The team needs to be balanced. If we got all muscle, then there would be no brains, and without brains, shinobi can't operate. Naruto nodded at Shikamaru's words along with Kiba and Akamaru, who barked. But seriously, Shikamaru, you're nothing but brain. Look at all this muscle. Kiba pinched Shikamaru's left arm, sniggering and earning a glare from Shikamaru. I think that we're a bit too cheerful for this atmosphere, don't you think? Sasuke inquired, raising an eyebrow at the 2 people from Team 7. Not really, as we're just trying to stop our anxiety from building up. Naruto explained to Sasuke in a cheerful tone as Sasuke rolled his eyes at him. Really, Sasuke-kun, we should all just relax, what matters is that we do our best. Ino said to him, smiling in a very Naruto-like way, it's just for the experience. But you guys don't know what the heights of the best truly are, Sasuke thought. Well, if I think that my guts are telling me what I think they're telling me, I think that there will be a lot of very interesting people in the examination. Naruto said. And you are one of those people, Naruto, Sasuke thought as he eyed Naruto. There sure are, and Shikamaru's eyes found the boy they had met that day. Gaara was his name. There are even some who stretch even further than interesting. Naruto, Sasuke and Kiba looked to where Shikamaru was looking. They were looking at the boy, Sabaku no Gaara. He had a murderous aura around him, they could tell. Naruto was very interested in this person as was Sasuke. They knew that he was strong as wreaked such a powerful intent of murder and death. Do you feel what I think I'm feeling, Sasuke? Naruto questioned, apparently grimacing under his face mask, about that guy, Sabaku no Gaara, Sasuke. Yeah, he reeks that aura of power, alright. Enough to scare even a tiger off. So you all are new genins. A teenage with white hair and glasses came up to them. Naruto nodded as did Sasuke. Kiba eyed the person strangely while Shikamaru just practically ignored the person. The girls, Ino and Sakura, just kept silent. Yeah, this is our first time taking the exam. Kiba replied to the boy. And may I ask what your names are? The boy asked them, eyeing Sasuke. They call me Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto replied rather lazily to the boy. I'm Uchiha Sasuke, team captain of Team 8. Who might you be? Yakushi Kabuto. This is the 7th time I'm taking this exam. Kabuto said. You're pretty weak to fail the exam in your last 6 tries. Kiba smarted. This exam is not as easy as you think that it may be. There are many powerful ninjas from almost everywhere. And you may just be the next victim of one of them. Kiba scowled while Naruto raised an eyebrow at Kabuto's sentence. Then, Shikamaru turned to his left and his lips turned into a smile. Hey, Choji, Shino, Hinata. Shikamaru greeted the new team that had arrived. Team 10 was in front of the group of ninjas with Shino, their team captain bringing up the rear. Choji was currently eating out of a bag of chips. Hey, Shikamaru, everyone. Choji greeted loudly as Kabuto frowned at them. Hello, everyone, Hinata greeted shyly to her former classmates in the academy. Shino kept silent as he leaned against a wall next to Shikamaru, apparently not caring at all. Naruto did not know much of anyone from this group apart from Choji. I suggest that you all please be more silent, you'll aggravate the other ninjas. Kabuto gestured over to a group of genins that looked to be more like a couple of bandits than ninjas. Naruto looked to Kabuto, he was a bit of a bossy person. I have said it once to all of you and I'll say it again, you're all just newbies. There are many powerful ninjas here, even though they are genins. He took out a pile of cards and set them on the floor, smirking at them. This is my deck of nin info cards. These cards have all the vital info on any ninja that has attended this exam for the past 4 years. Since I'm feeling a bit generous today, do any of you want to know any information on any particular genin? Sasuke eyed the deck of cards on the floor, Kabuto, hand holding onto it. Can I have information on Sabaku no Gaara and Hyuga Neji? Sasuke inquired. Let's see, yes, here it is. Kabuto pulled out a card from the deck, with a full-body photo of Neji and information on his techniques and capabilities, Hyuga Neji. He's a year older than you guys, past receiver of the Rookie of the Year award. So far, no one below the Junin level has bested him in taijutsu. He has 20 D-ranked missions to date, as well as 12 C-ranked ones. His taijutsu, as I said, is superior to almost anyone here, but he is weak at genjutsu and ninjutsu. Also known with his Byakugan bloodline limit and youngest person in the Hyuga clan to master the Jiyuken at the age of 9. His team consists of Rock Lee and Ikegata Tenten. Kabuto put that card on the floor for all to see and pulled out another card. About Sabaku no Gaara, his capabilities are shrouded in mystery, so I don't know whether he is a specialist of any sort. So far, he has done 20 D-ranked missions to date, as well as 8 C-ranked ones and 1 B-ranked mission. It also says here that he has never sustained any injuries when the missions were over. That makes you lose confidence, doesn't it? Hinata stuttered softly. Naruto clenched his fists at the information that he had just received. There were definitely powerful people in this exam, even if they were genins. Hey, Naruto, are you okay? Kiba questioned his friend, who was grinning. Kiba, I think that I am about to do something really stupid. Naruto stated. Kiba raised his eyebrows as Akamaru's ears perked up. Shikamaru sighed. Without warning, Naruto leapt onto one of the many tables and inhaled. Hey, all of you! Naruto bellowed to the rest of the room, catching the attention of the occupants, and most of it was not good. I'm Uzumaki Naruto and me and my team are going to thrash all of you to hell. Kiba stood there, slack-jawed at his blonde friend, while Shikamaru just sighed at his actions. Choji had stopped eating his potato chips and Shino had raised his eyebrows, seemingly interested. Sasuke, meanwhile, was slightly amused by Naruto's actions, and the girls were in the same way as Kiba was, slack-jawed and staring. The other genins that were before them could be seen glaring in Naruto's direction. Kabuto was very amused at the entertainment that the blonde had provided him with. I would get down from there if I was you, Naruto-kun. Kabuto stated. Naruto grinned under his face mask as he got off the table, but not before sending the other genins a look of his own, which caused some of the females to be quite attracted to him despite his previous actions. Naruto smiled as Kakashi would as he came to Kiba, hands in his pockets and a big grin hidden. Naruto, what did you do that for? Kiba half roared to his friend. Well, it's true, isn't it, Kiba? Naruto replied, still grinning under his face mask. Kiba did not reply Naruto's words, but instead found himself grinning at his words. Man, you're all so troublesome. Shikamaru said, scratching the back of his head. The other genins had turned away from Naruto. Kabuto grinned at the blonde. Well, Naruto-kun, that was very entertaining, but I doubt that you would not really fail to accomplish that goal, for someone with your capabilities, Kabuto said. Naruto frowned at Kabuto's words. What did he know about his capabilities? Kabuto pulled out a card from his deck, another nin info card, this time, Naruto's. Uzumaki Naruto, recently graduated student of the Konoha Ninja Academy and was nominated Rookie of the Year. Is a specialty with wires and Fuma shurikens. Mastered several ninjutsus before enrolling in the academy and just recently mastered an unknown assassination ninjutsu. Interesting, your ninjutsu is off the charts and your taijutsu is just below the limit zone. Your mission record is 18D ranked, 1C ranked and 1A ranked mission. Kabuto read out loud. Everyone's eyes but Shino's, Sasuke's, Shikamaru's and Kiba's popped out of their heads as they heard this information leave Kabuto's lips. Most of them knew that Naruto was a strong ninja, having received the Rookie of the Year award ahead of Sasuke and Shino, but none of them knew that he was such a genius. Granted, Naruto was not a genius, but he had more than made up for it with his training. Kiba and Shikamaru knew about Naruto's capabilities, but they definitely did not feel any jealous. Naruto had helped them many times during training, and they appreciated that very much. Sasuke was feeling a whole new experience to the word, envy. Naruto was always ahead of him, no matter what he thought. When he saw Naruto fight against that man who had defeated Momochi Zabuza, the demon of the mist, Uehi Kurenai, the Konoha Genjutsu specialist and the copy ninja Hatake Kakashi, the number 1 ninjutsu technician in Konoha, when all three had taken him on in a 3-on-1 battle, he had expected the blonde to be crushed. But as he, Sasuke, saw what Naruto could truly do, launching only one attack, the assassination ninjutsu, Chidori, was used and Naruto emerged victorious. I expect one of your standards, Naruto-kun, to perform up to scratch. Kabuto said in a smug tone of voice, but don't expect any challenges from the Otogakure no Sato, they're just a puny village that even the weakest can ignore. 3 genins in the exam were from the said village, and they were not pleased. Did you hear what he said? Zaku, kin, a heavily bandaged person asked. His 2 teammates, a black-haired girl, kin, nodded, as did the other teammate, a boy with hair that seemed to withstand the force of gravity. Zaku frowned. What kind of punishment should we land on him, Dosu? Zaku said. How about a painful one? The girl took out several needles. There were smirks and sniggers heard from them until they vanished from sight. Sasuke sensed movement coming up from behind him. He turned, only to see a heavily bandaged genin charge at Kabuto. Kabuto backed off to dodge the attack. It was seen that the ATTCK had never reached Kabuto, but he suddenly got on all fours and started throwing up, sweating bullets and eyes as white as dishes. Now you know to never insult our village. Dosu said triumphantly. Suddenly, he had a kunai to his throat, held by Naruto. Zaku was on the floor, his face kissing it rather forcefully by another Naruto's, a shadow clone's, foot. Kin had an arm around her upper body, a kunai to her throat as well by another Naruto. You're quite fast, Dosu said, his visible eye trying to see Naruto's covered face. You don't know the half of it, bandage boy, Naruto said dangerously. Silence, all of you. A group of examiners had just arrived, their ringleader apparently being a man with several scars on his face and wearing a bandana. You kids at the back better back away from each other before I fail every one of you. Naruto's two shadow clones disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving the original, which had taken his kunai away from Dosu's throat. Dosu was more than relieved. Naruto's eyes traveled to the examiners and he had realized that his friend and roommate, Momochi Zabuza, was among them, clad in an attire similar to the others. Take a seat away from your teams. The scarred man barked, scaring almost 3/4 of the people, and trust me, if I know that you are within a seat of one of your teammates, I will automatically fail you. Now sit down, the lot of you. Naruto sat between his former classmate, Hyuga Hinata, and the new genin he had just met and just recently recovered from the attack by the sound nins, Yukushi Kabuto. The examiners started to hand out the papers, which stated on them not to open them until the examiners said to begin answering the questions. Alright, if I may have your attention. The man barked more to them. They call me Morino Ibiki. I will be here to sort the ones that deserve to have the title of Chunin and the ones who have to try their luck again later in their lives. Naruto was wondering, along with the majority of the genins, if he could lower his voice down or just talk like a normal human being. You are to answer the 10 questions on the paper within 1 hour. Ibiki explained, that means you guys will have a maximum of 10 marks. If one question is wrong, you will lose 1 mark and so on and so forth. Every time you are caught cheating, 1 mark will be deducted from your paper. When your total of marks reaches 0, you will fail this exam. Ibiki put a lot of emphasis on the word, fail. Zabuza then came up beside Ibiki to continue explain the rules of the examination. You are taking this exam as a team. If one of you should fail, your whole team will lose out on the chance to become Chunins. There were many murmurs after Zabuza said this. He continued, also, if you cheat, don't think we won't know. Zabuza's last 5 words made some people in the room flinch or shiver in fear. I have to say, you've got some style, Zabuza-san, Ibiki thought. We've got our eyes on you people. One examiner stated to the genins. Alright, begin, Ibiki barked as he surveyed the people in the room. Naruto eyed his paper before opening it. There was a twist to this exam, he could feel it. He read the questions that came with the paper and smirked. They weren't as hard as his genin exam questions, on the contrary, they were the average questions that Kakashi had asked him and gave him the answers to in some lessons with him. Naruto had forgotten some of those lessons, and had a fair amount of time dedicated to remembering the questions and answers that Kakashi had given him. Meanwhile, unnoticed by the examiners were several other genins who chose to cheat but not very pathetically. Sasuke had activated his Sharingan to copy other people's writing motions. The girl that had come with Lee, Tenten, somehow had mirrors adjusted on the ceiling so she could copy the answers of people within a seat of her. The 2 Hyugas, Neji and Hinata, had activated their Byakugans and had hidden their telltale veins on the side of their heads so the examiners would not know that they had them activated. Sakura could be seen very tensed at answering the questions as she had no way to cheat and had a very pressured head. Ino, who had copied answers from some other genins in the room, felt a little bit of pity for her friend and used her family's infamous technique to take over Sakura's body and scribble down some of the answers for her. Sakura, who, after 3 minutes, regained full consciousness of her body and made a mental note to thank her friend for her help after the exam was over and treat her to some dinner. Lee was just like Sakura until Tenten signaled to him to look to the mirrors on the ceiling and copy down the answers. Lee was forever grateful in his mind to Tenten. Kiba, meanwhile, had Akamaru rushing around the room stealthily and copying down the answers that Akamaru had retrieved for him. Shino had used a small insect in a way very similar to Kiba to retrieve the answers. Shikamaru just used his brain to answer the questions. He had studied his brain more, as he said, during the days that he had with Team 7 to train. Choji was a little bit lazier than Shikamaru. He knew the answer to 3 out of the 10 questions and just answered those, not bothering to take on the other questions as he sat, relaxed, in his chair. Naruto surveyed the questions that he had answered and was very pleased with himself. He had answered 9 out of the 10 questions and he knew that they were correct, after completely remembering what Kakashi had taught him. Naruto then heard several teams' names being called out by Ibiki, always ending with a bark of, fail. Naruto saw them walk out of the doors, dejected. Naruto looked at the last question and raised an eyebrow at it, confused at what it said. He reread it several times until he was sure of what it meant. The head examiner will announce this question 45 minutes after the test begins. What does that mean? Naruto thought, surveying it. Naruto calculated that it had been around 40 minutes since the test started, so there would be around 5 minutes more to go until Ibiki would give the last question. Naruto pondered the possibilities of the question that would be asked. Man, I wonder what kind of question it may be, Naruto thought. The time was around only 5 minutes, but Naruto was bored by the silence and the barking of the word, fail, by Ibiki. It also helped build up the tension between the genins. Naruto looked on as more of the genins walked out the door, dejected. Kiba was looking just as tense as Naruto, but Shikamaru was relaxing with his hands behind his head leaning against his chair and balancing on the 2 rear feet. Sasuke was as calm and collected as ever, as were Shino and Neji. Ino and Sakura were even more tense than Kiba and Naruto, wondering what the question may ask. Lee was eager and Tenten was just as calm as Neji. 45 minutes had passed since the start of the exam, and Ibiki walked up front with hands in his pockets and the smirk that most of the class had grown to despise. All right, Ibiki barked as half the people in the class winced. 45 minutes have passed since the start of the exam, and as your paper says, I am to give you the 10th question. But, there were several gulps at the, but, I'm giving you a choice, do you want to take this question or not? The girl that Naruto had met that day, Tamari, raised her hand. What will happen if we choose not to take it? She asked Ibiki. Then, Ibiki began, your marks will be reduced to 0 and you and your team will fail this test. What? Then of course we'll take the exam. Kiba shouted, jumping from his seat. You have heard the other part to the rule, Ibiki said, now smiling a completely wicked grin. If you take the question, but get it wrong, you and your team will lose the right to ever be raised above the genin level. Several eyes widened at the statement. Zabuza was apparently smirking. So is there anyone here who would dare to take the risk? Ibiki went on, surveying the class with his intense gaze, raise your hand if you don't want to take the question. If you do, you'll still get a CF hands next time. Several hands went up in the air, failing them and their teams. Come on. This is your last chance, get this wrong and you bring down your team with you. Ibiki surveyed, as several more hands were raised into the air. Kiba was under intense pressure. He did not know whether he would take the question or not. He did not want to be the reason his team fell. Akamaru, I don't want to see my teammates stay genins forever. Kiba said quite painfully to his dog, as if there was a blade through his chest, sorry, Shikamaru, Naruto, I don't want to see our dreams crash to the ground. As Kiba slowly began to raise his hand, his eyes widened at another sight. Naruto's hand was trembling in the air, as if he was straining to keep it up. Sasuke and the other members of the graduated academy class were shocked. Zabuza was more than surprised at Naruto's action. Another one. Alright, Team 7, Ibiki started to say. Cut the crap, Naruto shouted, slamming his hand on the table before looking at Ibiki in the eye and pulling down his face mask. Bring on your question. I accept whatever challenge it is. Even if me and my team stay Genins forever, we will still achieve our dreams no matter what. Let Konoha see before them the first Genin Hokage. Naruto pulled his face mask back up and sat back on his arms crossed. Ibiki saw that no other people had put up their hands anymore. I repeat again, would any one of you risk staying a Genin forever? I never go back on my words, that is my Nindo. Naruto said strongly. Interesting guy, he washed away everybody's fears. Ibiki turned to Zabuza. Zabuza grinned under his face mask and nodded at Ibiki. Alright, the 10th question. Ibiki turned to face the Genins and the very determined one of Uzumaki Naruto's. Congratulations, you all passed. The Genins stood, slack-jawed except for Naruto, Shikamaru, Neji and Shino. What do you mean we all pass? Sakura exclaimed. What about the 10th question? Kiba stood up as Ibiki laughed. There was no 10th question. It was simply a ploy to see if you all would risk it on an all-or-nothing gamble, such as the job of a Chunin. Ibiki said. Then what about the other 9 questions? Tenten raised her hand. They were there to test you on your knowledge and information gathering skills. If I am correct, most of you cheated to get the answers to those questions and did not get caught. I must say that I am. A woman with dark purple hair, a fishnet shirt and a light brown trenchcoat suddenly came crashing through the window. Heya, Ibiki. She greeted the scarred man who nodded in greeting and then surveyed the Genins. 78. You're losing your touch, Ibiki. There were a lot of outstanding ones this year. Ibiki said. Whatever, I'll cut them in half sooner or later. She said, smirking. Cut us in half. Most of the class wondered at her words. Alright, you guys. I'm the beautiful, sexy and still single Mitarashi Anko. Please follow me to the next site of your Chunin exam, she said. The Genin stood in awe at the sight of their next examination. Welcome to the Forest of Death. This will be the site of your next examination. Many people whispered in the crowd and observed the lush forest. There was no sound of birds chirping in it or even frogs croaking. It was very silent. I expect that not even a third of you will survive this exam, she said. Stop trying to scare us. Naruto said loudly as he turned away from her. Anko did not take this too kindly, so she decided to scare the blonde with the face mask. Anko threw a kunai so accurately that it just grazed his cheek. She then appeared behind the blonde, and held a kunai to his throat. The blonde suddenly vanished into thin air as Anko's eyes widened. Bunshin no jutsu, she thought, but the next move was faster than she expected. Naruto was above her, a very long wire in his hands. He proceeded to quickly tie Anko up with the wire, not giving her an inch to move. Naruto then pushed her down to her knees, making her feel more than uncomfortable and held the wire in his hands before her and bending down so her face met with his. Kakashi Nichin taught me to avoid crude attacks like yours, so there's no use scaring me like that. Naruto said as Anko glared into his eyes. Naruto then proceeded to release Anko from the bonds that he had put on her. Now you're a bit wiser, aren't you, Anko-san? Naruto said cheerfully. Most of the teams made a mental note to avoid Naruto during the field exam. Anko continued to act as though that nothing had happened. Alright, I'm giving each of you contracts. This helps me get out of the hassle of people going after me for deaths. Anko said simply. The 78 Genins signed the contracts and handed them into her. Alright, I'm now going to give each of your teams a scroll. Either a heaven scroll or earth scroll. Your task for this examination is to retrieve the other scroll from the other genins that are in this exam and bring it to the tower in the middle of the forest within a period of 5 days. You are not to open the scroll during that allocated time, or else, well, you'll see for yourselves. Anko said quite mysteriously. Now get to your assigned gate, and when it opens, remember that you only have 5 days until the deadline. You don't get to the tower in time, you fail. Naruto nodded to his team, who had received a heaven scroll. Naruto, Shikamaru and Kiba walked through to their gate and waited until it opened. A few tense seconds passed until the gates finally opened, signaling the start of the field exam. Team 7 leapt from tree branch to tree branch at high speeds, watching everywhere for signs of activity. What do you think should be our battle plan, Naruto? Kiba asked. Don't ask me. Ask Shikamaru, he's the best in the brains department. Naruto and Shikamaru turned to the back of their group, where Shikamaru was lazily leaping with them. He noticed their looks and sighed. It's obvious, isn't it? Search and retrieve, Shikamaru said, smirking. His two friends grinned at him as they leapt through the woods. After 1 hour, they stopped and set up a camp to gather plans. Naruto, I'm not saying anything, but I think after that show of yours, the genins are going to avoid us. I mean, who would take you on after that show just now? Uchiha Sasuke. Shikamaru replied in Naruto's place. You know how much he doesn't like Naruto ever since he was knocked off the throne of the academy. Suddenly, they heard a scream. Naruto felt that there was something wrong. Very wrong. He turned to face Kiba and Shikamaru. Kiba, do you feel that? Naruto tensed, getting up. Yeah, that was Sakura's scream. Looks like they're going to be eliminated. No, Kiba, there's a large amount of chakra here. And don't you feel the ground slightly rumbling? Shikamaru questioned, and they heard another scream. Akamaru suddenly grew scared of what was going on. It knew. We have to investigate. I don't think that this is an exam anymore. Naruto said, leaping into the bushes along with Shikamaru, leaving a confused Kiba. Why do I know that I'm going to regret this? Kiba buried his face in his left hand. He then proceeded to leap into the bushes and soon caught up with Naruto and Shikamaru. Naruto was slightly tensed, a bead of sweat going down his face. They arrived at the scene a minute later. Ino and Sakura were in fear. They were quite injured as well. Sakura had a bleeding arm and a cut on her forehead. Ino had a sprained ankle and was a cut rib. Sasuke was trying his best to avoid a grass nin on a snake. His body was heavily battered, but he could not back down. If not, he would die. Needless to say, Sasuke was just running away in his mind. Sasuke had a kunai drawn, fending away the attacks of his opponent, but still failing miserably at the attempts. He had injured both his arms, and had a hard time moving. This grass nin was fast, with or without his snake. Naruto looked on at the fight. Sakura, what happened? Kiba asked as Akamaru silently whimpered. That man, he ate our scroll. Sakura said, slightly in shock. He said that he only wanted Sasuke. Ino said in pain. Kiba turned to look at the fight on the trees. It was a useless battle for Sasuke to fight. Naruto nodded to Shikamaru and then to Kiba. I can't believe we're actually helping that guy. He better thank us. Can you girls take care of yourselves? Shikamaru asked. Ino nodded. The three boys leapt upwards. The grass nin had Sasuke in his sights. You're now mine, Sasuke-kun, he said, then laughed maliciously. Sasuke was scared for his life. He did not want to die here. Kaden. Karyu Enden. A breath of fire was let loose. The snake was incinerated, but the grass nin had leapt onto another tree branch. It was 3 newcomers. Naruto stood there with Shikamaru and Kiba to his flanks. They could feel the power that this person emanated from his body. The grass nin smirked at the 3 of them. Ah, so there are 3 more meals for me to eat, how delightful. The only thing that you're going to have for dinner is a whole lot of broken teeth. The man on the tree branch looked down at the boy with the whisker marks on his cheeks, the one who had been stupid enough to say the words to him. Do you remember the plan, Shikamaru? Naruto asked his friend. I do, but you and Kiba better be quick. With his chakra, the most I can hold on to him is 15 seconds. Shikamaru said, drawing out a kunai. Kiba, I'm going to get Sasuke to help us. Naruto said before leaping to Sasuke. What are you doing here? This is my battle. Sasuke, you know that this guy is not what he seems to be. He's way above our level. We can't run away from him. And we'll lose one-on-one. So what do you propose? Sasuke questioned as Shikamaru and Kiba came up to them, getting ready for their fight with the grass nin. Me and Kiba are going to face this guy off. Naruto said. Sasuke reluctantly agreed and drew a kunai for the face-off. 4 genins against me. You are overestimating your skill. The man said. No, you are overestimating yours. Naruto called out. Sasuke, Kiba and Naruto charged at the ninja. Naruto, with his kunai, began a very fast assault with it. The grass nin dodged the moves with ease as Kiba came up from behind him with his Suga. He jumped out of the way and Sasuke proceeded with his Fuma Shuriken, throwing it at the ninja with all his might. The ninja jumped away, not noticing that Naruto had created a shadow clone that came up behind him. The shadow clone proceeded to do extremely fast hand seals as the original Naruto did the same hand seals at the exact same speed. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Naruto and his clone let forth more fire. Sasuke had activated his Sharingan and saw the damage, but all 3 of them knew that the grass nin was still alive. He leapt out of the flames, slightly burned but very angry at being hit by such an old trick. The next second, Sasuke had his eyes burned in realization that he could not just run away all his life. And in that particular second that he had watched Naruto and Kiba fight with their all, it happened. The single Shrike in the Sharingan had turned into 2. He had witnessed the attack that Naruto had performed and copied it. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Sasuke breathed out a flame similar to Naruto's, hitting the grass nin with his all, then throwing 3 shuriken, which hit. The ninja felt that he was never more humiliated in his life. The shurikens had hit him squarely in the chest and without feeling any pain, he drew them out and threw them back at Sasuke. 2 missed and 1 hit his right shoulder. Arg! Damn it! Sasuke cursed as he winced in pain. The ninja leapt up to him and grabbed him by the throat, slamming him against the tree bark. Sasuke knew he was done for. Tsuga. A tornado knocked the man away to another branch. The grass nin got up angrily, looking at a smirking Kiba and a vicious Akamaru. Kunai Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto threw several kunais at the ninja. The kunais multiplied into several other kunais, all of which missed except for 2, one getting him in the leg and the other on his left shoulder. Why are you helping Sasuke-kun? The man drawled angrily. Sasuke is not my friend nor is he my enemy. But he is a ninja of Konoha. That is more than enough of a reason for me to help him escape from your clutches, whatever the reason you have for him. Naruto said, drawing a Fuma Shuriken. A ninja of Konoha, a ninja of Konoha, I am a ninja of Konoha. Those words echoed in the ninja's mind, almost driving him to a frenzy. He clutched his head in pain as Naruto looked on. He sweated bullets. No, I will not let you be free. I refuse. The man shouted, confusing everyone. In another voice, the ninja spoke. Naruto grew even more confused. I will not remain dormant forever, you should have known that. Then, suddenly, a body of a pale white man was separated from the grass nin. The man was panting heavily on the ground, wearing a white yutaka. The grass nin also changed his appearance. He looked like the man on the ground, who was unmoving, except now his eyes were yellow without the cat-like slashes in them. Now that this annoyance is gone, let us continue our fight. Kiba used his Suga once again, except this time, was slammed by the palm of the man's hand, stopping his spin and making him vulnerable. The man took out one of the kunais on the tree and stabbed Kiba's back, making him scream in pain at the thrust. Naruto performed several more hand seals. Doden. Doryuden no Jutsu. Naruto called out. A head of a dragon came out in the form of mud and launched several missiles of earth at him, all of which hit. Sasuke took this chance to attack. He threw two kunai's ETH wires attached at the stunned ninja, both of which hit him. Now's my chance, Sasuke exclaimed, performing several hand seals, ending with the tiger seal, Kaden, Ryuka no Jutsu. The wire lit up in flames as did the grass nin. But after a few seconds, the man was replaced by a charring pile of mud. Sasuke turned around to see the man's eyes looking down on him and paralyzing him. Kiba came at him with another Suga, but the man dodged it. He now stood, standing on the bark of a tree. Are you okay, Uchiha? Kiba asked, panting heavily. You are all so naive. Haven't I shown you that even ones such as yourselves cannot beat me, Orochimaru? The man went on to laugh. Naruto. Now, the sudden shout of Shikamaru was heard, using his family's technique on the man. Orochimaru, I can't hold on much longer. Naruto looked from Kiba to Shikamaru and started to perform several seals in extremely quick motions before ending it by grabbing his right wrist. The blonde leapt at Orochimaru, Shikamaru's warning still in his mind. The most I can hold on to him is 15 seconds, Naruto remembered. Chidori. Naruto went on to thrust his hand into Orochimaru's chest just as he did to Kisame with all his might. But the blow was caught by the bare hands of the man, making it almost fall apart from the speed, power and amount of chakra in the Chidori. You are too slow, brat, but I commend you. He threw Naruto to one side. You all have done this much damage to my body. Not that it matters, I leave Sasuke-kun in your care until next time we meet. He disappeared in a puff of smoke, Naruto staggering and clutching his right hand in pain. The man had almost crushed it when the Chidori was caught. His body was feeling light and he felt that he could not move another inch. He dropped to the branch of the tree, losing touch with the world around him. Damn it! Naruto cursed as he fell into the world of dreams. Naruto. Naruto stirred from his sleep. He had had a very good dream. He had dreamt that he was the Hokage of Konoha and people were recognizing him from the person he was, not the demon he carried. He slowly opened his eyes slowly and found out that it was already nighttime. Then, a figure came before him, his eyes widened. It was the man who he had driven away with his friends, Orochimaru. You! Naruto exclaimed before motioning for a shuriken, but his weapon's pouch was gone and he had his right arm wrapped in bandages. It looked bad. So you are finally awake, child. Let me get your friends. Orochimaru said. Naruto's eyes widened. He was confused, the man he had fought before was being nice to him. Naruto looked over to his friends, Kiba, Shikamaru and Akamaru. They were sitting around a campfire, eating some fish he guessed that Kiba had caught. Orochimaru came up to them and alerted them of Naruto's awakening. Kiba got up from his spot and went over to see his friend. Naruto's eyes widened even more when Kiba engulfed him in a bone-crushing hug, crying all the while about how worried he had made him and Shikamaru and Akamaru. Naruto was trying to breathe as he cried. I am sure that your friend would be very pleased to see you as well after he has finally gained the oxygen back in his lungs, Kiba-kun. Orochimaru said. Kiba released his hold upon Naruto and they waited for a few seconds until Naruto had finally regained his breathing capabilities. Naruto then turned to Orochimaru. Why is he with us? Naruto questioned, pointing to Orochimaru while facing Shikamaru. He's dangerous. Didn't you see how he almost killed us? Naruto, you don't understand. He didn't attack us. His other self did. Kiba said. Other self? What are you guys talking about? Naruto questioned more. Orochimaru-san, would you please care to enlighten us again? Shikamaru asked. Orochimaru motioned them to sit down around the fire. Akamaru snuggled against his master's lap and Naruto began scarfing down the extra fish that Kiba had caught. It all began almost 3 decades ago, when I was still a handsome young man. Kiba sniggered as Shikamaru rolled his eyes. I was researching my in-lab late one night on the seals that the Konoha had. There were a great many seals, but I was very interested in one very curious seal. The Cage Habi Fuan. It was one of the seals that originated from Cloud Country, from a clan that died out in the First Great Ninja War. It was very interesting as it had very close relations by the treasure that is chased by all man, immortality and eternal youth. I began researching it for years, trying to find out the power that it had. After another decade had passed, it was finally found out that this seal was the seal of immortality. But I was foolish in pursuing its secrets, as I was literally turned insane one day by the study of that seal. And that is where my own evil broke out of me. My teacher had told me about my dark side many times and I so foolishly ignored him. My other side took over my body. All the evil that I had sealed within myself had opened up into the world. I watched with my own eyes as my other self, the one who attacked your friend, slaughtered many ninjas to gain power to the seal of immortality. And I struggled in vain to regain my own body as my teacher accused me of slaughtering all those ninjas when he had found out the deeds that had been done. I have been asleep ever since, until, Orochimaru gestured to Naruto, you woke me up, Naruto-kun. Your words reminded me of the reasons I became a ninja of Konoha, to protect my friends for they were all that remained in my heart. But I fear that with the evil that my other self has been doing, I don't think that they will trust me. Naruto looked at Orochimaru's face, seeing upon him the look of regret and sorrow. Then we just have to tell the arrow cage that you're completely innocent. Naruto said simply, sighing and getting up. Kiba, how long have I been asleep? 2 days. You suffered from extreme chakra exhaustion, Naruto, and Akamaru, and I know that you're at least 3 days away from a full recovery. Kiba said, you're unfit for a fight while you're like this, me and Shikamaru will take care of. No, Naruto said firmly, clutching his right fist as he got up. Kiba, Shikamaru, you both know what my answer will be. I am team captain of Team 7 and I will be damned if I were to watch my friends fight in my place, you know that. Orochimaru chuckled at the blonde's words, memories flooding into his head. You remind me of an old friend, Naruto-kun. Orochimaru began after finishing his short chuckle. He was a bit of a handful back then, calling himself the captain of our team. He was a loyal one, but quite distrusting and at most times, perverted. Me and him were rivals, somewhat, but we always laughed together and carried each other. I wonder, Orochimaru looked skywards, if he will ever forgive me for all this. You shouldn't bother on the past, Oro-san. Naruto said, pulling up his face mask. It's not done me any good and I highly doubt it will do any to you. Live in the present and look forward, that's what my brother taught me. Yes, I suppose that you're right, Naruto-kun, Orochimaru replied. Oh yeah, Naruto, about Orochimaru-san, Shikamaru began, hands in his pockets. Just what are we going to tell the Hokage that we just brought back a dead guy after all these years that actually murdered quite a few ninjas all that time ago? The truth, of course, Shikamaru. Naruto said, flexing his arms, even if that old pervert does look tough, he's practically all jelly inside those old bones. So you know Sarutobi-sensei personally, Naruto-kun? Orochimaru asked. Not really that personally, but he has helped me out a lot of times before. Oh yeah, Orochimaru-san, why do you call Hokage-sama Sarutobi-sensei? Because I am one of his students, I am one of the Sannin. The next morning, the team set off to search for other teams with scrolls. They were quite unsuccessful, even with a fourth member that they had picked up during the field exam. They had been with a Sannin, one of the greatest ninjas that Konoha had produced, a student of the Sandaime Hokage. But there was a downside to the meeting. Orochimaru's tenketsus were sealed, Shikamaru had sensed. There was no chakra flow in the Sannin's body. The Sannin still had his speed, but he could not perform any ninjutsu or genjutsu. And it was fairly known that Orochimaru's taijutsu was the worst in the Sannin. He relied mostly on genjutsu and ninjutsu. So you're practically saying that you are as vulnerable, if not more vulnerable than Naruto right now. Kiba raised an eyebrow as they leapt from a branch. Yes, my release from my other self had its consequences. My tenketsus are very damaged and the only thing that I can do is either sense chakra or dodge attacks. Can you perform any summons? I heard you could summon snakes. Kiba said. I can summon the contract, but I am still useless with the tenketsus sealed and I fear that the only way that they will open again is if you return to your other self. Shikamaru finished for him. He nodded. Then if you can summon the contract, why not give it to another someone else, like Kiba? Your friend already has a treaty with dogs. A treaty is different from contracts as in a treaty, all the members of the clan by blood is to receive a creature. In this case, the dog that is with you. A contract is used with a ninjutsu technique, Kuchio's no jutsu. Generally, a contract creature is more powerful than a treaty one. What about Naruto? He's a bit exhausted on the chakra at the moment, he could use the help of the snakes. They don't take that much chakra, do they? No, they don't. But if I summon the contract, you will have to sign it in blood and endure a test that I doubt that Naruto would survive. I myself barely did. I'll take the contract. Naruto suddenly said, I don't want to be a burden to you guys for the rest of the field exam. Besides, Naruto grinned under his face mask, I want to show it to my brother when I finish this, he'll be green with envy. Are you sure, Naruto? The test is not really easy. Orochimaru said. Naruto nodded in Orochimaru's direction. The dark-haired man thought about this. The boy was strong, he had to admit, but he questioned whether he will be strong enough. The contract of the snakes was not one to play with. They stopped in the middle of a clearing from Orochimaru's orders. Orochimaru then started to perform several hand seals, ending with the horse seal. A long scroll of paper suddenly appeared before them in the air and suddenly dropped onto the ground. It was tied up in a black string. Orochimaru then opened the scroll before gesturing to Naruto to come over and sign in blood. Sign there, next to my name, Naruto-kun. Orochimaru instructed. Naruto did as he was told, biting his thumb with his sharp canines before doctoring a spiral with it. Naruto stood for a while as the spiral turned into his name, now in black ink. Orochimaru then rolled up the scroll and did the seals in reverse, making the seals disappear. Naruto looked at the dark-haired man, who just sighed. Naruto, do as I do and call out the snake. Orochimaru said, performing some seals. Naruto copied them perfectly before Orochimaru backed away from Naruto along with Kiba and Shikamaru, signaling him to go on with the move. Suddenly, 3 blurs came at them, 2 went at Naruto and 1 went for Orochimaru. Kiba fended off the attack that came at Orochimaru, pushing them back. Naruto got hit by a blow to his jaw and to his back as he was not strong enough or chakra conscious to sense the presence or moves from the blurs. Naruto slowly got up. He knew that he was slightly too weak to take on these people who stood before them, the sound nins from before. Dosu and Kin were in front of him, getting ready to kill. The girl was fingering 2 needles in her hands while Dosu was flexing his hands, eyeing Naruto with bloodlust. Kin looked calmer. We have orders from Orochimaru-sama to kill you, Uzumaki Naruto. Dosu said. Hey, you were humiliated by me in the first exam, what would make you think that this time would be any different? Naruto smarted, grinning under the face mask. Orochimaru-sama has made sure that it would be different this time. He told us about your battle with him and if I am correct, your chakra reserves are only just recovering from that encounter with him. I estimate your supply to be about 1/5 of what it was, Uzumaki Naruto, Dosu said, then charged at the blonde. Naruto still had his reaction speed. He jumped upwards before blocking a blow from Kin. But he wasn't prepared for the next blow. Dosu used his metal gauntlet and used it, making Naruto almost throw up as Kabuto did from the effects. Naruto kicked the girl away before landing 10 feet away from them. His eyes then darted to his friends, who were trying to dodge the vortexes that Zaku were throwing at them. Naruto knew that they could not hold out long and that he could not possibly perform a technique that would consume all his chakra other than the snake summon. Damn it! Naruto cursed as he dodged the needles thrown by Kin. From behind, Dosu came at Naruto with a kick, sending him back a few feet. I can't perform the Kage Senpu, there's 2 of them, and I can't perform any ninjutsu because my chakra is only just starting to refill, Naruto thought. Naruto had to perform the technique that he had wanted to perform earlier. He quickly performed the hand seals that were required and slammed his left palm into the ground as Dosu and Kin came up to him. Then, there was a big explosion and an extremely large cloud of smoke appeared, reaching for the skies. A gigantic snake appeared before the sound nins in Naruto's team and Orochimaru. It was a fiery orange in color measured for a length of almost 600 feet. The snake took up almost 2/3 of the field. What? A snake? Zaku looked on, fearful of the giant serpent. I should have chosen this snake a long time ago instead of Manda. Orochimaru said, smirking at the creature Naruto had brow before them, Mitogen, the king of the fire snakes. Naruto, I hope that you pass the test he has put for you. Who dares call on me? The snake demanded, looking at the surroundings and finding Orochimaru. Orochimaru, you called me here. I will never forgive you for humiliating me when I so kindly put my services before you. You chose Manda. Hey, snake, I called you here, not him. Naruto called out. You. The snake pondered this for a moment. I sense you are telling me the truth, boy. But I do not know for sure. Meanwhile, tell me what you wish me to do. I don't have enough chakra to perform any more techniques, snake, so I called you to help me beat up these guys. Naruto gestured to the sound nins on the ground. Oh, is that all? Mitogen questioned before looking down to the fearful sound nins. Very well, boy, I offer you my services for this time, but after this battle you are to answer my question. If you get it wrong, I will burn your summoning contract. Naruto nodded as the snake reared its head and tried to crush Dosu. Too easy for me. Dosu cried before he looked into the snake's eyes. Suddenly, Dosu burst up in flames, screaming in agony before rolling around on the ground in an effort to put the flames out. Zaku looked on as his teammate slowly got up after a few moments, burns eminent on his body. Naruto looked at the girl, Kin, who was just plain shocked from the events. She stood there, shocked at the heavy damage the snake had inflicted to Dosu. Orochimaru stood there, shocked as well. I did not expect for the king of fire snakes to be so powerful, Orochimaru said. Naruto panted as he stood on the giant snake. The chakra he had used to summon the snake was more than he expected. He was down to less than 1/10 of his capacity. Zaku left Kiba and Shikamaru and went at Naruto. Naruto jumped off the snake, dodging the attacks of Zaku, who smiled gleefully as Kin appeared behind Naruto, stabbing him in the ribs with a needle. Naruto winced in pain as he grabbed hold of the girl's wrist and threw her at Zaku. The snake then reared the 2 ninjas. Dujutsu. Kato no Habi. It said, setting the other 2 ninjas aflame. There were snakes surrounding them, made of fire. Zaku tried to put them out. Zenkuaha. Zaku shouted, blowing the fire snakes away before looking up to the giant snake one last time before fainting along with his teammate. Naruto was fatigued. He turned to Dosu, who was badly injured from the fight. Looks like that leaves just you and me, bandage boy. Naruto said, grimacing. Dosu did not know what to do. He was at a clear disadvantage. Wait. I'll hand you our Earth Scroll, let us leave in peace. Kiba looked opposed to the idea, as did Shikamaru. Naruto nodded. Dosu handed Naruto Earth's scroll, which he accepted silently. The sound ninjas left, leaving Naruto, Orochimaru and the rest. Now that I have helped you defeat your enemies, boy, you must take my test. Yeah, I forgot about the test, Snake. Tell me who you are first. I am the king of the fire snakes, Mitogen. The snake replied, eyeing Naruto, and now, you must face my test. Fail and you will never summon me again. Suddenly, two coils of earth came out of the ground and tied Shikamaru, Kiba and Orochimaru. Naruto stood in shock before turning back to the snake, angry. What are you doing to them? Let them go. Naruto shouted. This is your test, boy, you must choose which one of these tastes the best for my royal tongue. Fail, and I will devour you and all your friends here. Which one will taste the best, boy? Choose. Mitogen asked, eyeing the three of them. Stop. What gave you the right to eat any of them? Naruto questioned. You summoned me, everything has its price, now tell me which one of these will taste the best for my tongue, and don't even think that you can stop me. Right now, you are much too weak, and your wounds are opened up. Mitogen said. Naruto gritted his teeth before looking down to the ground, whispering something. What was that, boy? I did not hear you, speak louder. Eat me, Naruto said, looking up into the eyes of the giant snake, just, don't hurt my comrades. Anyways, Kiba and Shikamaru don't taste so good. They're sweaty. The coils of earth started releasing its hold on them. Shikamaru looked to Naruto. Naruto, what are you doing? You'll. Shikamaru couldn't finish his words. Hey, you damn snake. Who do you think gave the right for you to eat him? What? I saved your lives, didn't I? You owe them to me. Mitogen said. Guys, I'm really sorry, looks like you'll fail this time. But there's always. Kiba punched Naruto, making him fly a few feet away from him. Stop trying to act all heroic. Kiba barked at him, then turned to the snake. You don't want to eat Naruto, he's all pig flavored, he'll make you fat, eat me. What are you talking about, Kiba? I taste the best among you guys. Shikamaru came up next to Kiba, smiling. Naruto got up, angry at them. Back off, both of you. I summoned him here, I should be the one. The three started to get into an argument of sorts. The snake suddenly laughed after a few minutes passed of the two of them bickering about who will be eaten. What's so funny, you stupid snake? Kiba suddenly barked at the laughing serpent. Nothing. The snake said, before nearing Naruto, you pass, boy. You have shown me what I wanted out of you, you have proven that you value your comrades and friends as ninjas above all else. You have proven yourself worthy of my services as well as my subordinates and children. Summon us anytime and we will assist. The snake suddenly disappeared in a giant cloud of smoke, leaving behind a trio of confused, relieved and slightly tired Genins and Orochimaru. Well, we got our second scroll. Why don't we get going to the tower? Naruto said. Yeah, let's go before we encounter any more characters. Kiba replied. And remember about Orochimaru-sama, we'll have to tell the Hokage too. Naruto and Kiba nodded to Shikamaru. The blonde then approached Orochimaru. Oro-san, we're leaving now. Naruto said simply before leaping into the bushes. Orochimaru followed him first, followed by Kiba and Shikamaru. I wonder, Naruto, how could that guy command the sound ninjas? Kiba said. He could have threatened them, but I doubt that they would have followed his orders when he was in that state. But my biggest hunch is, Shikamaru started. That he himself is a sound ninja. Naruto finished for Shikamaru, nodding. Do you know anything about your other self, Orochimaru-sama? Kiba asked. Not really, Kiba-kun, because I have been dormant for the last decade, I cannot remember anything that happened after that. Orochimaru said seriously. Never mind about that, guys, we'll just reach the Hokage and explain everything. Naruto really did have a way to make things very simple. The team and Orochimaru leapt from tree to tree until they reached the tower, having not really encountered any dangers or opponents. Kiba had a feeling in his gut that the Genins were either very scared of Naruto's actions when he went to face off against their examiner, or they had just went too fast for the Genins to get them. They walked toward one entrance. Suddenly, two Anbu and their examiner appeared before them. The female examiner appeared to have a very serious look and a grin plastered to her face. Orochimaru, we have finally found you. Alert the other Anbu. One Anbu barked. Wait. There's something different about him. Anko suddenly said, gesturing her left arm to make sure that the Anbu would not do as the other Anbu ordered. His eyes, they don't have the slits in them anymore. What happened? Let me take a look. Anko-san. The Anbu did the same seals for the Byakugan and what he found shocked him. His tenketsus are all sealed, no chakra activity at all. Anko eyed the genin with the long blonde hair and face mask, almost glaring. I know that you know what happened. Explain. She ordered. He's the real Orochimaru. Naruto explained, gesturing his thumb to the man who stood behind him. There's another guy that just looks like him, he's just evil. I don't believe that I understand what you just said, but I am going to take all of you to the Hokage, he'll know what to do about this mess. Anko finished. The one word that could have described the Sandaime Hokage's face when he saw his former student, missing for many years appearing before him with a grin on his face was, shocked. The word was an understatement, but it was the closest thing that could describe him. The Hokage was completely oblivious to the three genin who entered the room along with Anko and two Anbu. Naruto made him notice by shouting into the shocked old man's ear in a voice loud enough to rumble a hill. What do you think that you are doing, you idiot? Sarutobi faced Naruto. You were like a statue for a good 5 minutes, old man. Naruto replied. It's good to see you again, Sarutobi-sensei. Please forgive me for coming in like this. Orochimaru said and bowed before walking up to his former teacher. What are you doing here, Orochimaru? Sarutobi began, facing the man. Naruto spoke in his place, not minding the looks the two Anbu and Anko gave him. He's been dormant for the past decade, old man. I don't know the whole story even though that he himself had told me, I was too lazy to bother. Orochimaru then started to tell his tale of the seal of immortality and his other self taking over his body and performed all those misdeeds upon Konoha. He also told him about Naruto and his friends waking him up from his state. So you're saying that your other self is causing all these things from before? The Hokage tried to confirm. Orochimaru nodded. I told you that sometimes curiosity would not be a good thing for you, Orochimaru, but did you listen? No, you did not. You knew, didn't you, Sarutobi-sensei? Orochimaru began, slightly grinning, that it could not have been me perform in all those things. That is why you let me go. You knew that it was not me, and at the same time it was. Not really, Orochimaru, I still did intend to kill you, but now, Sarutobi smiled to his former student warmly, I realize what a mistake I would have made. The former student and teacher pair hugged each other, happy to see one another. Well, I would like to congratulate you three boys for finally ending an S-ranked mission that has gone on for longer than I could remember. Sarutobi said. We just finished an S-ranked mission. Kiba stood there gaping at the Hokage's words as Shikamaru and Naruto's eyes widened at the realization. Wow, I didn't think that we were actually doing something important. Naruto said. We just finished an S-ranked mission, Kiba repeated. Well, you boys are still in the Chunin exam, if I am correct. Sarutobi said as the three genins nodded dumbly, I wish you the best of luck, I have faith in you. Anko, would you mind showing these boys to their temporary living quarters? Of course, Hokage-sama. Anko said to the old man, then turned to the three genins that stood before her. Follow me, I'll show you where the living quarters are. The three of them and Anko bade goodbye to the Hokage and Orochimaru before following Anko to their room. Anko left them at the door. The three genin entered the room and saw what made them think that Konohagakure no Sato was very rich. There were 3 beds, a balcony that viewed the forest and some quite comfortable-looking couches and chairs. The lighting was just perfect and there was a bookcase in one corner that held several books and magazines, including Makeout Paradise. Naruto sat down on the foot of one bed, feeling quite sleepy from their ordeal in the forest. Kiba did the same thing as Naruto, sitting at the foot of his bed. Shikamaru was slightly interested in the set of shugi that was on one table. "So any of you guys up for a game?" Shikamaru asked his teammates. "Sure. I'm bored, I could use a good game of shugi." Naruto replied. Naruto sat down on the opposite side of the table as Shikamaru flexed his knuckles out of habit and motioned for Naruto to take the first move. Kiba saw that there was nothing else to do, so he watched his friends begin their match of wits. The match was starting off and after a few good moves, Naruto and Shikamaru were in a tight deadlock. 15 minutes passed in silence as the two ninjas were locked in a battle of wits. Shikamaru was the one with the advantage, of course, having a higher level mind, but Naruto was not really that easy to beat. Even with his lower intellect, Naruto had proved himself to be a very good analyst of the situation. He could turn around any game in his favor after seeing just a single move made. Shikamaru loved to have Naruto as one of his shugi partners, but none of their games had ever finished thanks to the extremely long hours of strategizing. As Shikamaru began to do his next move, he saw that Naruto was intently gazing at the board. Shikamaru figured that he was searching for a hole in his wall. But the lazy genius was not one to be reckoned with in a game of shogi. Shikamaru had made sure that his offense and defense strategies went according to plan. Shikamaru moved the next piece as Kiba watched the game intently. There was such a huge difference between Naruto and Shikamaru, Shikamaru being of a higher level in the intellectual sense, but the blonde looked like he was picking up the pace with him. Naruto stood still for a while as the time passed by, thinking his next move. Naruto made his move and grinned at Shikamaru under his face mask. Shikamaru's eyes widened at the move that Naruto had made. He had never expected that. He had to revert to another strategy. There was no way that he could make a clean victory out of this. Shikamaru leaned back and put his hands in a circle, his preferred thinking position. Kiba grinned. It was over for Naruto if Shikamaru had used that position to think his next move. To Kiba, he definitely knew the outcome for Shikamaru, victory. "Well, Naruto, it's been a nice game, but I guess I'll have to end it now." Shikamaru placed his piece where he desired it to be and leaned back in his chair. Naruto looked from the board to Shikamaru's smirking face then to Kiba's face, which clearly signaled to him to just give up the game. Naruto grinned. "Well, Shikamaru, I guess that you have ended the game." Shikamaru looked on in horror as Naruto did his move. Kiba was disbelieving. "Wow, nice move, Naruto." Shikamaru grimaced. Naruto had caught up with him. "Yeah, but I'm not going to win, but I'm still giving you a fight, Shikamaru could not help but smile as the two boys continued their game. This was it. The teams that have made it through the field exam lined up in a large examination hall as their teachers just looked at their students. Proud that they had made it this far. Naruto stood with his 3 friends, all lined up in between Team 8 and the Sand Nins. Before the examination hall, there stood 21 genins, some of them had just made it just in time. Teams 7, 8 and 10 from Konoha stood proudly in their places, as the other teams from Konoha, Neji's team and Kabuto's team, stood stoic and unmoving in their places. The Sound Nins had made it as well at the last minute before the field exam ended. "Looks like your team made it through the field exam too." Hatake Kakashi, Maeda Guy, Yuichi Kurenai and several other Junin instructors were standing on the railing watching their students. Kakashi and Kurenai had been reported to by the Hokage that their teams had encountered Orochimaru's other self. Kurenai was plain shocked that the two teams had made it out alive against him. Kakashi had expected no less from his little brother's tactical abilities. Sandaime Hokage had also introduced them to the real Orochimaru, a man who just looked scary, but was about as nice as the Hokage himself. The Hokage had also warned them to keep an eye out for Orochimaru's other self. Kakashi and Kurenai had left the Hokage's office in the tower wanting to get a personal account on the encounter from their own students. They wanted to know how they had done it and what could be learned from the encounter with the ninja. The Hokage now stood before them. The proctors for the examination were there as well, as was the examiner for the field exam, Anko. Kiba fidgeted nervously. I must first congratulate you on passing the field exam. You all deserve to be here, proving that you are among the best that have entered this examination. But now I have to tell you the true reason that the Chunin exam was held. Sarutobi said as the genins wore confused looks on their faces. It is to prove which among the 5 shinobi countries grows the best ninjas. We are all opposed to a war despite our anger, but such rivalry between the countries cannot be avoided. That is why we held this exam, to prove which country has the best army. There was a mixture of confusion and anger between most of the genins. Anger because they had just discovered that they were just like racehorses that bets were placed on. Confusion because that they did not know what would happen next. Excuse me, Hokage-sama, but may I so humbly request that I begin the preliminary rounds for the 3rd stage of the Chunin exam? A sick-looking Junin asked. Very well, Hayate, you may begin the preliminaries. Sarutobi said, nodding. The Junin turned around to the genins as the Hokage walked away from them. Good day. I am your examiner for the preliminary rounds of the Chunin exams, Gecko Hayate. We will begin individual fights. As a rule, the winner of the match will go through to the 3rd stage of the exam. We will begin soon, but first, Hayate surveyed the genins. Is there any on W who would like to give up before the preliminary round starts? I will need an even number of ninjas. Is there anyone who would like to give up and withdraw? This won't affect your teams. I withdraw, examiner. Kabuto had raised his hand before walking away. Everybody looked on as Kabuto walked away from them, seemingly uncaring. Alright, let's get started. Join your instructor on the railings until your name is shown on the screen there. Hayate gestured to a black screen. You will face your opponent in one-on-one combat. Now please clear the arena. The genins all walked up to the railing to join their instructors. Well, congratulations on beating the field exam, you 3. Kurenai said. Thanks, Kurenai-sensei. With a team like ours, we can beat anybody. Kiba said. Naruto nodded while Shikamaru gave a slight grin. They then eyed the monitor. I wonder who's going to go down there first? Naruto questioned. The screen then lighted up in blue and started scrolling through names. Nara Shikamaru vs. Kankuro, please come down. Hayate announced. Shikamaru sighed while his opponent just casually walked down the railing. Me against the puppet guy, How troublesome, Shikamaru thought. Shikamaru just casually jumped off the railing and landed on the ground. Hayate stood between them, coughing slightly. Shikamaru looked to his opponent. He was the same one that Naruto had humiliated in the park 2.5 weeks ago. Begin, Hayate said, signaling for the fight to start. The two of them stood there, unmoving. They were having a glaring contest, that much the people could tell from their view. Shikamaru, meanwhile, was thinking about his strategy as he watched his opponent intently. I don't know much about you, Pineapple Head, but I can tell from your looks that you are either a very fast one or a very weak one. Kankuro taunted. Shikamaru did not answer. He was too busy calculating the fight. He knew that he could not attack head-on. He needed to make sure that his opponent did not know about his family's technique. He had the element of surprise, however slight, with him. Shikamaru made a note to himself to thank Naruto for revealing all the information about Kankuro the day that he had met him. The spectators grew tense. I guess that move is the only thing that I've got with me, Shikamaru thought. Shikamaru took out a kunai and threw it at Kankuro. Kankuro merely dodged it. The brunette came charging at Kiba, a kunai in his hand. Kankuro dodged away from Shikamaru. He had average ninja speed, while Kankuro was quite slow, having only learned the basic ninja skills other than his puppeteering techniques. Shikamaru leapt upwards, spinning and tried to slash at Kankuro. What is Shikamaru doing? He's usually not this reckless at taking on an opponent. Naruto's puzzled expression meant that he too was not familiar with the way that Shikamaru was executing this. He was a passive character, dodging attacks until he had the opponent within range of his family's technique. Kiba looked on. I don't know, but maybe, just maybe, he has a plan up his sleeve. Kurenai said. Shikamaru was performing some very fast attacks, which were depleting his stamina rather rapidly. He had always been lazy, that was why he was getting tired fast. Kankuro leapt away from his opponent, smirking at Shikamaru. HMPH. You're not really very fast or weak. You're just an average ninja. I'll have you know, that your friend only beat me by luck that day. Kankuro said. Shikamaru did not look into Kankuro's eyes for a while. He suddenly smirked. No, you lost fair and square. You saw how you lost control over your own tool. Shikamaru hit back, grinning. To put it simple, you're just using your puppets to scare off your opponents. You're nothing without their protection. Kankuro stood there, fuming at Shikamaru's words as Tamari looked on. Don't lose your cool, Kankuro, you need to win this one. Yeah, Kankuro said, smirking at his opponent, you may be right, I may be nothing without my puppets, but with them I will never lose. Why? Because I am a puppet master. I control them, I don't need any other skills such as ninjutsu. With my puppets, all my opponents' just fall to the ground like flies. Shikamaru stood still for a second, then smirked in return. Alright, let me show you a skill that Naruto taught me, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 3 other Shikamarus appeared, all wearing the same smirk as him. Naruto, when did you teach him that move? Kiba asked, wide-eyed. When we were still training. He can use it very well. Naruto said. Kurenai looked on at the technique Shikamaru had used. But, Shikamaru's chakra is very limited. He cannot last long by using that technique as it divides the chakra equally among the 3 shadow clones, Kurenai thought. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, you can use such a technique. Doesn't matter, victory will be mine, anyway. Kankuro said, grinning like a madman. 3 Shikamarus came at Kankuro as he suddenly unleashed several extra arms, knocking aside the 3, before one more Shikamaru came at him. The arms took hold of this Shikamaru. The spectators looked puzzled at the happenings. You're so stupid to come so close to Karasu. Kankuro said. That one is a puppet. The real Kankuro is, Kiba could not finish. The arms binded Shikamaru as the real Kankuro came out of the wrappings. You're really so stupid, I overestimated you. Kankuro smirked. From the railings, Naruto smirked. As did Kiba and Kurenai. Kankuro looked on as the shadow clones started to turn to smoke. But one did not turn to smoke, however, as Shikamaru, in the puppet's arms, smirked before turning to smoke. Kankuro's eyes widened. He could not move. You fell for my trap. Shikamaru said from behind Kankuro. What? I see. Kankuro grimaced. You've really thought about this from the start. Yeah, you could say that. My offensive movements were to make you underestimate me. I could have used the Kage main no jutsu on you, but I would still miss. Also, I knew that it was a puppet from the start because there was no bead of sweat on them or any form of respiration. I knew I had to draw you out, and this is where it had led us. Shikamaru explained as onlookers were impressed. Fine. I guess that you've won this time. Kankuro grimaced. I give up. Shikamaru released his hold on Kankuro as Hayate announced the winner. Victor. Nara Shikamaru. Shikamaru walked up to his team, smiling lazily to them as he did so. He had won against the puppet user convincingly using his brain and techniques. Kiba put his lazy friend in a headlock before scrubbing his hand through his hair, triggering static. Naruto just stood there and smiled at Shikamaru, and in return, he smiled back. Congratulations on your victory, Shikamaru, though I must say that I thought that you wouldn't use that technique so soon in the exams. Kurenai said. It was a bit troublesome to use, but it did save a lot of time. Shikamaru said. I wonder who will be fighting next. Naruto pondered as he watched the screen. The examiner, Hayate, was in the middle of the arena, coughing into his fist before looking to the screen, which had started to scroll through various names again. Naruto watched intently as the names stopped. It was not going to be a pretty match. Could the two genins please come down? Aburame Shino versus Rock Lee. Naruto watched as the green-clad Lee bounced up and down in joy at his name being called out to fight. Naruto also saw that Guy was being a little too encouraging at his students' enthusiasm. The blonde then turned to Aburame Shino. He did not know a great deal about Shino, but he knew that Kiba did. He turned to his friend. This match is going to be in Shino's way, I can feel it. Kiba said. What are you talking about, Kiba? Why do you think he'll win? Shikamaru asked. You guys have never seen Shino train or even in action. He is, to put it straight, on par with Uchiha Sasuke and definitely not to be reckoned with. Kiba said. Lee jumped off the railing and landed on the ground of the arena while Shino just walked down the railing in his cool and composed manner. Lee gave the good guy pose, as it is known to Naruto. He had seen Guy do it numerous times. Kakashi AHD also advised him not to follow Guy's extremely tacky and at times stupid example. Shino stood there unmoving, hands in his pockets and a raised eyebrow. Begin. The examiner said, signaling with his hand to the two fighters. Naruto stood watching the battle intently. Though none of the genins had made a move, Naruto guessed, like the fight between Shikamaru and Kankuro, they wanted to test each other's mental strength first before going on to the fight. I wonder what makes Shino so good in Kiba's eyes, Naruto thought, gazing to the arena with his two eyes as the other genins and junins did the same. You are a genius, aren't you? Lee began, getting into his fighting stance. Shino kept silent, not moving at all. He just stood there, hands in his pockets. Naruto, watch this fight closely, Shino is going to cream this guy. Kiba said. Shino still stood there with Lee getting into a different stance. Naruto could sense that Lee was having an extremely hard time predicting Shino's next moves. He was not doing anything other than standing there. This went on for 1 minute. Rock Lee will make the first move, Shikamaru said, surveying the silent duel. So you felt that too, Shikamaru? Naruto grinned under his face mask. Shikamaru nodded at his friend, grinning at the still battle. There was still nothing going on. Suddenly, Rock Lee dashed at Shino. He aimed a kick at the boy's torso. Shino jumped upwards to avoid the oncoming blow. Lee grinned. You cannot dodge in the air unless you can fly. Lee exclaimed. Lee suddenly appeared in the air behind Shino. Kiba looked on, his face serious. No, Shino is not someone that can be caught that easily. Kiba whispered. Lee performed a heel drop on Shino before spinning around and executed several taijutsu moves in quick succession, a straight kick, followed by a backhand blow and a very strong punch that sent Shino crashing toward the ground. Nice work, Lee. Prove that your flame of youth burns strongly. Guy exclaimed. Yes, I will, Guy-sensei. Lee shouted back to his instructor, flashing a grin. Naruto shook his head. How could someone pick up Guy's attitude? But when he saw the green jumpsuit, the blonde knew what Lee would be like, Guy's carbon copy. And Naruto could not help but feel that he and Lee would be the next generation of the infamous Kakashi and Guy rivalry. Him as Kakashi and Lee as Guy. Naruto trembled at the thought before looking back to the fight. Lee was winning. Shino got up slowly from the crater that was created from his crash. Lee just kept grinning at his opponent, hands to his waist, looking triumphant. Oh ho, You are definitely a strong opponent for me. Very well, be prepared. Shino raised an eyebrow before performing certain hand seals. Bunshin no Jutsu. What is he using that technique for? Naruto questioned. Sure enough, there were two Shinos appearing before the original. Calmly, Shino took out two kunais, as did his replicas. Naruto frowned. Shino and his clones threw their kunais to Lee, who dodged them easily. Behind you. A calm and collected voice sounded from behind Lee. Lee elbowed the master of the voice, which immediately disappeared. A replica. Then where is he? Lee thought, his eyes widening. Lee looked above him, and sure enough, there was Shino, three kunais in each of his hands. Lee jumped upwards with all his might and kicked Shino, who disappeared. Another replica. Then where? Lee looked to the ground. Shino was there. Shino threw his kunais at Lee, that could not be dodged. All three of the kunais hit the green-clad genin, two got both his arms and one cut his cheek. Then, Shino appeared in midair, facing Lee, and through his glasses, Lee could feel that this boy had taken the fight to another level. A very direct punch to Lee's face was administered, followed by a kick to Lee's gut, sending the genin crashing to the ground. Naruto watched the blows Shino had dealt. He was impressed. So Kiba, is Shino a taijutsu specialist like Choji and you? Naruto asked. No. Kiba answered, watching Shino stand coolly watching the cloud of dust that covered Lee. The impact was not as strong as the one Lee had done to him. Shino is not a specialist in genjutsu, ninjutsu or even taijutsu. He is very much like me, but he is definitely not a specialist. Shino, he can defeat someone just as long as he touches the opponent because he is from the Aburame clan, the bug users. Naruto's eyes widened as he watched Lee pick himself up. Literally, the blonde was stupefied by this information. He had never known about the bug usage by the clan. Give up now, Shino said to Lee, who just stood there, slightly smiling. By touching you I have transferred my bugs to your body. Your chakra circulatory system is now under my control. Give up now if you don't want to live with broken bones. Out of the corner of his eye, Naruto saw Guy smirk at the words. Hey, there is no problem in that. Lee exclaimed, getting into another fighting stance as Shino raised an eyebrow. You know why? Because I don't use any chakra. Naruto smirked. He knew how true those words were. Even he could not feel an ounce of chakra coming out of Lee's body. To put it simply, the genin had no chakra to begin with, and Naruto's guess that he became a taijutsu specialist because of that. Lee dashed to Shino and aimed a kick to his head. True to the title of bug users, Shino called upon a wall made of bugs from his body, blocking the attack. Lee spun like a tornado and tried to administer another kick to Shino, but the wall of bugs was quick to react once again, blocking the attack while he did nothing. He went for Shino with lightning-quick punches, but the wall of bugs would not stop guarding him. Lee backed off, frustrated and tired from his blows. Damn it, his wall goes as fast I do, I'll have to go faster, but that means. Lee, remove your weights, you have my permission. Guy called out. Naruto looked to Guy with curiosity as he continued, your opponent has made it clear to you in his actions that you are equal to him, now use your almighty flames of youth and emerge from this battle victorious. Guy did his good guy pose, again, grinning. Yes, Guy-sensei, I will emerge from this battle victorious and prove my strength. Naruto sighed as did Kakashi when both of them did their infamous poses again. Lee did as his teacher had told him to. He removed his weights. Naruto observed that the total of weights that Lee was wearing were near equal to what he had used. Shino-san, I acknowledge you as a worthy adversary. Lee got into a stance. Shino dug into his pouch of ninja tools and eyed Lee through his sunglasses. So he doesn't use any chakra. Interesting fellow, Shino mused. In his pouch, Shino had gotten hold of two shurikens. His plan was simple. One shuriken would be a simple diversionary tactic while the other would hit the target. It was a basic technique, but it proved its usefulness time and time again. 10 seconds of silence passed, neither one of the ninjas moving. It seemed like the whole battle was about to begin all over again. Kiba observed the fight intently. Shino is going to win this one, only a good fire element technique can beat him. I wouldn't say that, Kiba, just watch at the effects of the weights on Lee's body. Suddenly, Lee charged at Shino. The wall of bugs came to answer Shino's call once more. But the wall had not finished forming, and as a result, Lee pierced it easily. A direct blow was administered to Shino's face as he flew 10 feet away. But before he hit the ground, Lee had appeared behind him and gave him another kick, sending him flying into the air this time. In the air, Naruto saw a very powerful backhand blow from a spinning Lee smash into Shino's chest, sending him to the ground once more. Yes, Lee, Guy cheered, his left foot on the railing, show him your speed. Lee stood a fair distance away from where Shino landed, ready for the next move. The onlookers looked in shock as they discovered that Shino was not there. In his place were pieces of a smashed-up log. Guy's eyes widened. Where did he disappear to? Kiba questioned. There was no sign of Shino. Suddenly, Lee felt something crawling up his legs. He looked downwards and saw hundreds of bugs holding his legs to the ground. He was vulnerable at this moment. Doden. Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu. Shino came up from the ground with 2 shurikens between each hand, quite battered up by the blows from Lee. That's Shino, alright, Kiba said, grimacing, he's my target in this exam. As Shino started to motion his hands to throw the shurikens, he fell over, leaving everyone watching the battle confused. Naruto knew Shino had fallen over. What's wrong? Kiba looked at Shino on the ground, clutching his ribs in pain. Lee's high-speed attacks had the power to shatter a wall. Kiba, apply that to the damage that the human body could receive from such force. Naruto said, the battle was going to go in Lee's way the moment he took off his weights. Nicely put, Naruto-kun. Guy commented, smiling at Naruto, who smiled back. The bugs loosened their hold upon Lee's legs and Lee was able to move again. He walked over to Shino, who looked at him from the ground, clutching his ribs in pain. Lee bent over and faced Shino, slightly smiling. I had a nice battle with you. I hope to fight you again, Shino-san. Lee said. Shino tried to get up and continue the battle, but he could not. He had lost. Winner. Rock Lee. Hayate announced to the spectators of the battle. Several medic nins came to Shino and put him on a stretcher, carrying him away. Lee jumped from the arena straight to where Guy stood and was in tears. Guy-sensei. I did it. I won. Lee exclaimed, hugging his teacher tightly. Yes, Lee, you have proven yourself as a bearer of the flame of youth. As onlookers watched Guy and Lee hug each other, they backed a few steps. Naruto watched the screen for signs of the next battle. He too was eager to fight. Akado Yoroi versus Tamari. Will the fighters please proceed to their positions? Tamari jumped off the railing as Kabuto's half-masked teammate, Yoroi, stood in front of her with cold black eyes. Hayate was between them, eyeing the two. Begin. Hayate announced and then coughed before backing away from them. Yoroi literally charged at Tamari, who just smirked at her opponent. She flipped into the air and landed gracefully with her cat-like movements. Yoroi turned around and performed several acrobatic feats of his own before throwing a few kunais at Tamari. In response, she whipped out a very large battle fan and waved it. Ninpu. Kametachi. Tamari shouted, creating gusts of wind. Yoroi was obviously taken by surprise with his expression. He tried to block the gusts of wind, and was not successful at all. Tamari grinned at her opponent, who was on the floor, glaring at her as she stood there, a smirk on her face. She's good with her battle fan, though I suspect that she might only be at an advanced level with it. Naruto stated to his teammates and teacher, who all observing the fight, she hasn't really mastered it fully yet, there's still a big gap. A big gap? Kiba questioned, looking down to the smirking Temari, meaning. Naruto sees that every time she swings the fan, she creates a big gap in her defense. Kurenai answered knowingly, for every swing, that battle fan needs a lot of force and she uses her body weight to swing it. And when she finishes the swing, her opponent has a time of between 1 and 3 seconds to hit her with a technique. That obviously supports the fact that she has not mastered the battle fan yet. Naruto went on as his teammates listened to his analysis. A master of the battle fan does not have that weakness. He or she can swing continuous times without a second to stop. Really? I didn't notice that, Kiba said, rubbing his neck and looking to the arena. Temari still had her arrogant smirk plastered on her face. Yoroi was looking quite frustrated and tired from his continuous attempts to get close to her for an attack. It seems like I have to end this battle quite quickly. I don't have time to waste with one such as you. Temari said, her arrogant tone still there. Ninpu, Komedachi. The blades of air sliced Yoroi here and there. He got even more frustrated as a result. Then, he noticed that there was not only one Temari, but 3 of her. Each one stood at a different angle from Yoroi. Shikamaru smirked from above. Bunshin no jutsu to confuse the opponent. Clever move, Shikamaru commented. Yoroi panicked. This left him open to an attack by his opponent. He quickly tried to judge which one was which as all 3 blonde girls smirked evilly. Ninpu, one of the girls began to call. Yoroi turned his face to her. The Temari that he had turned to vanished. It was just a replica. Ninpu. Komedachi. Temari called upon her gusts of wind, knocking her open powerfully into a solid wall. She grinned at her accomplishment as she kept her fan. Unconscious, Victor, Temari. Hayate announced after looking to Yoroi. Temari walked coolly up the steps, not bothering with the looks the Kunoichis sent her. She was quite proud of her accomplishments in the fight, a clean win. Naruto looked back to Kurenai after the battle was over. She had a worried expression. What's wrong, Kurenai-san? Naruto inquired in a playful tone. Kurenai turned her attention back to Naruto and gave him a soft smile. It's nothing, Naruto, it's just that I have a bad feeling about the sand nins. That's all. Kurenai looked over to a very stoic-looking Gaara. They're very violent, I've noticed. And that Gaara, he emits a very powerful intent, it almost scares you, Naruto said for her. She grimly nodded. Don't worry, as long as I'm here, you have nothing to be scared of, I promise, Kurenai-san. Naruto, Kurenai began, looking to the unmasked blonde, who smiled honestly. Within the vicinity, Naruto's 2 teammates had thoughts of their own, watching both Naruto and Kurenai in such a moment. Kiba whispered to Shikamaru. Shikamaru, I think that our friend looks to Kurenai-sensei differently. Kiba said. I don't really care, love is really just too troublesome. Shikamaru said. Uchiha Sasuke vs Zaku Abumi. Hayate announced to the genins. Naruto looked over to Sasuke, who looked about as stoic as Gaara. Sakura and Ino were cheering him on as he proceeded to walk down to the arena. Zaku did the same as Sasuke and both of them stopped in front of each other. Hayate to the fighters. Begin, Hayate announced, signaling to the 2 with his hand once more. Zaku took the initiative, thrusting his left palm forward and smirking. Zenkuaha. A miniature vortex came out of his hand and hit Sasuke. But in that instant, Sasuke instantly turned into a log. Where the real Sasuke had disappeared to, Zaku had absolutely no idea. He frantically looked around. That's an interesting technique. Tell me, did you create that vortex from those things on your hands? Sasuke's voice sounded in Zaku's right ear. The sound nin turned around and saw that Sasuke was there, hands in his pockets and smirking as if there were no tomorrow. Zaku grew even angrier. Shut up. Take this. Zenkuaha. Zaku shouted again, releasing another vortex. Sasuke performed some acrobatics and went to one side, avoiding the blast. Zaku was even angrier now. He thrust his left palm forward and repeated his technique, only to have Sasuke dodge them easily. Naruto grew interested at Sasuke's moves. Sasuke is getting better, Kiba. Naruto said to Kiba, who was watching the battle as well, I don't think that this guy can keep up with him any longer. The battle was not over yet and Zaku is throwing very powerful vortexes at Sasuke, only to see the Uchiha dodge them by sidestepping or performing some acrobatics and moving away from him. Zaku was getting very tired from his moves. Is this all that you've got? Sasuke taunted Zaku and activated his Sharingan, making Zaku's eyes widen with surprise. If so, I'll show you an Uchiha's power. Don't talk big. Zaku then started to perform some hand seals and threw both his palms forward, making Sasuke raise an eyebrow. Eat this, ultimate Zenkuaha. A vortex came out, combined from the power of the two hands put together, and Sasuke and the people watching this battle noticed that this one was 3 times as big. Sasuke just smirked as the other genins looked at the vortex hit him. You and your arrogance. This is what you get for looking down on me. Zaku started to laugh, confident of his victory. Everyone's attention then turned to Sasuke, who had been replaced by a log. Zaku's eyes widened. That's enough for you, Sasuke declared in a crouching position in front of Zaku. Sasuke kicked Zaku's jaw, sending him flying into the air and started to perform acrobatics. He turned Zaku over in the air with a fake punch, delivered a powerful backhand blow, followed by a kick to Zaku's stomach, another kick and a heel drop, sending Zaku crashing to the ground. Lee's eyes widened as he watched. Shishi Renden, Sasuke shouted as he executed the Fiebel heel drop onto Zaku. The move was finished and Sasuke jumped away from Zaku, smirking at his work. Hayate came to check on Zaku, who was unconscious, before turning to Sasuke. Victor, Uchiha Sasuke, Hayate declared as Sakura and Ino hugged each other. Sasuke walked back up to where the genins and their instructors were, and Naruto could have sworn he was smirking in his direction as he did. The names started to scroll again through the board. 2 names were shown. Kin Tsuchi vs Haruno Sakura. Hayate announced to the genins. Sakura walked down the steps, very nervous, while her opponent, Sound Genin, looked as cold and uncaring as a block of ice. Ino came up beside Naruto. Naruto-kun, who do you think will win this fight? Ino asked. Sakura should have no problems with her opponent, but she has to be very wary with her tactics. I've fought this girl before. She likes to confuse people with needles. Begin. Sakura took out 2 kunais and threw them at Kin, who threw back 2 needles, canceling out both attacks. Sakura took out another kunai and went back into the battle by going in a close-range weapons battle. Kin did likewise. Kunai and needle met each other, and both girls were caught in a battle of strength. Go, Sakura. Ino cheered her friend on as she watched the fight between them. Sakura and Kin backed off, drawing more projectiles from their pouches. Sakura took out 3 shurikens while Kin took out 4 needles, 2 in each hand. They threw their weapons to each other, and 2 shurikens met 2 needles. 2 needles headed toward Sakura, while a shuriken headed toward Kin. Sakura dodged 1 needle, but the other needle hit her left shoulder. The shuriken that she threw left a cut on the left cheek of Kin's. They looked to each other. You're weak. Why don't you just give up? Kin taunted. Weak. I guess that makes us even, doesn't it? Sakura shot back. Kin frowned and glared at Sakura as she got up, clutching her injured shoulder. Sakura continued to smirk in Kin's direction as they both drew more weapons. Get out of my way, weakling. Kin called out as she threw her needles at Sakura. The needles all hit Sakura, or so it seemed. Sakura immediately turned into a log. Kawarimi no Jutsu. Then, Kin's eyes widened as she looked to her left side. Sakura had a fist back to punch Kin. She was in midair, drawing all her strength. Take this. Sakura landed a blow to Kin, sending her flying a good 5 feet away. Sakura grinned as she watched Kin slowly get up, her arms shaking from the pain. Who's weak now? Sakura taunted, watching Kin glare at her. HMPH. Kin drew a needle and charged at Sakura, who drew a kunai. Kin and Sakura locked in a very tight competition of needles and kunais. Kin was going on the offensive and Sakura was blocking every slash with her needles with her kunai. It was definitely going to be a very hard match to decide. Suddenly, with the force that was registered to their weapons, the kunai and needle flew out of their hands, leaving them to resort to their taijutsu. Sakura threw a punch at Kin, which she caught. In retaliation, Kin threw another punch at Sakura, which was caught by her as well. It looked like a deadlock. If you want to leave this arena alive, just give up. Kin said. The two girls released their hold on each other and backed off, panting. This will be the last blow. Kakashi said, observing the battle. Kin and Sakura charged at each other, each of them enhancing their fists with chakra. The two fists collided with their heads and they both went unconscious. Hayate looked from one girl to the other, both showing no signs of going on. Draw, Hayate announced, as the audience's eyes reverted to the figures on the floor. Unmoving, Hayate turned to a medic Nin, signaling to come over. The two girls were brought away on stretchers. Ino turned to Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei, is Sakura going to be alright? Ino asked, worried about her friend. Don't worry, Sakura's a strong girl, she'll be alright. Kakashi said. Their attentions turned to the screen again, names were coming up. There are only half of us left, Kiba thought, looking over to Gaara, nervous. The names stopped and there was a large amount of interest. Shikamaru and Kiba looked to their teammate and smirked. Neji was smirking as well. Among the Leaf Genins of the recent graduation class were buzzing with anticipation. Uzumaki Naruto vs Hyuga Neji, will the fighters proceed to the arena? Neji leapt down to the arena at the same time as Naruto. They both turned to each other and sent one another looks of determination. They walked to their positions as the Genins watched the battle with great interest and pulsing minds. Hayate stood between the two ninjas, looking from one to the other. Begin. Neither one of the ninjas were moving their muscles. Both of them were boring into each other's eyes, trying to intimidate or provoke the other to start the fight. Now we shall see what kind of rookie of the years the academy has produced since I've graduated. Neji smarted as he got into his Jiyuken stance. The kind that does not brag about their own abilities. Naruto countered. Neji frowned and started to do hand seals to reveal his Byakugan. Naruto frowned. So I finally get to fight a Hyuga, a chance to get the Jiyuken, Naruto thought. Let me ask you something. Do you believe in fate and destiny? Neji asked. Naruto did not answer but took out a kunai. He threw it at Neji, who caught it by the handle with his left hand. Naruto smiled under his face mask as he took out a Fuma shuriken and motioned to throw it. Neji got into his stance once more. Do I believe in fate and destiny? My answer is no, Naruto said, throwing his weapon at Neji, who easily dodged it. It stuck to the wall behind him. Then, let me show you what fate and destiny really are. Neji charged at Naruto. Naruto dodged the oncoming blows from Neji. He was very fast. The Hyuga smirked as he thrust his palm to Naruto's chest for a quick hit. But his eyes widened when he saw that Naruto had turned into a log. Neji looked upwards. Kunai Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto threw a kunai, which multiplied into 5. Neji flipped away from the kunais and Naruto, who landed gracefully on his feet. Looks like you have a few tricks up your sleeve as well. Neji said. Stop talking. The real fight begins now. Naruto announced, his fingers forming a cross. Neji frowned. Naruto summoned his shadow clones, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Neji was surprised at the technique, to say the least. Hayate frowned when he saw the Genin perform a Junin-level technique. There were 4 clones in the arena now, accompanying the original Naruto. All of them drew a kunai, ready to attack. If you really think that destiny and fate are what that already lies before you, you don't know how wrong you are, Neji. One of the blondes said. Silence. What do you know about fate and destiny? Neji charged at them. One Naruto started doing several very fast hand seals before unleashing fire. Kaden. Gukaku no Jutsu. One of the Narutos blew out a giant fireball. Neji was slightly scorched from the flames and suddenly noticed two opponents behind him. He registered a kick to one of them before using his Jiyuken on the other. They both turned into clouds of smoke. Neji turned to the three remaining Narutos. You got lucky with that fireball, but, Neji smirked as he dashed to the Naruto on the left of the one in the middle and used a finger jab on it and continued to talk as he gazed to Naruto with his Byakugan, there's only one you. You've lost this battle. The two Naruto clones turned into smoke as everyone saw how Neji had hit Naruto. HMPH. Neji, let me give you a piece of advice, never underestimate me. Neji's eyes widened as the Naruto that he had hit turned to smoke, leaving a clear arena. Neji looked around. Even with his Byakugan, he could not find Naruto. Underneath you. Naruto's voice was heard by Neji. He looked down. Naruto was there, registering a punch to Neji's jaw as the young Hyuga backed off, rubbing it in pain. He pulled himself out of the ground and leapt away from Neji. The Hyuga prodigy had a bleeding lip from the blow, it was not too serious. When did you? Neji was shocked, as was almost the rest of the genins. It was the same technique that Shino used on Lee. I used it after I created my clones. You were too busy to notice my fast hand seals after the first technique. Fast? That's an understatement. I could not even see the speed with my Sharingan, Kakashi thought. Everyone was too busy to notice Kakashi's red eye. You have really trained Naruto well, Kakashi. Guy said, watching the fight. Yeah, but Naruto is not fighting this boy seriously. If he was, Neji would be dead from Naruto's blows. He's trying to teach and learn at the same time. Kakashi said. You mean that Naruto is trying to get Neji to use the Jiyuken at full power? That's why. He wants to see if he can imitate him. He, after all, does take after me. Neji's Byakugan looked into Naruto's cerulean blue eyes, calculating the next move. Neji knew that this boy was extremely powerful, he could easily be a Junin. I will not lose this fight. It is my destiny to defeat you. Neji announced to him. Then come at me. Prove that it's your destiny to win. Naruto taunted. The blonde then took out another Fuma Shuriken and threw it to Neji. Neji dodged it by bending himself backwards. Naruto grinned as the Hyuga's eyes widened in horror. There was a string attached to the Fuma Shuriken. Naruto pulled back on it. The Fuma Shuriken went to a lower altitude as Neji jumped in frustration to dodge it. Naruto then let his grip on the string go and went to take Neji head on. Naruto performed several kicks at Neji, who could not dodge all of them because of the sheer speed of the blows. The Hyuga prodigy then noticed a very advantageous element that was going to go in his favor. Naruto was close enough for his powerful Hyuga Ryu move, the 64 Fists of Hake. He took the chance. Little did he know that Naruto was waiting for the move as well. I may be a little weak on my Tenketsu aim, but I still have my speed, Naruto thought. The moment of truth had arrived. Naruto was going to have to counter the move. You are within the field of my divination. Both boys declared, but Neji was unfazed, as was Naruto. They continued their attacks. Hake, 2 fists. 4 fists. 8 fists. 16 fists. 32 fists. 64 fists. Impossible. How could he know such a technique? He is, Neji thought. Damn it, the Hyuga Ryu is harder than I thought. I countered every single one of his hits and now my hands are burning, but I've copied it, Naruto thought, smirking. From above, several genins and junins were trying to get their jaws off the floor. How in the world did Naruto do that? It's almost impossible, Ino. Naruto-kun, you are really a true genius. I hope to fight you, my rival. Lee expected of a genin if he was raised by the copy ninja Kakashi. Asuma. He really is way above us, the stupid show-off. Kiba. I really hope to fight you one day, Naruto, Sasuke. He countered every single one of the Hyuga's blows. Choji. To perform such an ability is almost an impossible feat, Tamari. Neji's attacks were blocked off by that blonde boy, Tenten. Neji was shaking in fear, literally. He wanted to give up this fight. He could not win. There was no chance for him. This genin was a monster. Are you going to keep fighting, Neji, or are you just going to give up? Naruto. Neji looked back to Naruto, who was just standing there, frowning. When the brunette boy did not answer, Naruto started to speak. If you give up, won't it prove that your fate and destiny things are all nothing? I myself don't believe in those things, Neji, I create my own destiny. Naruto began, looking to the boy in front of him in frustration, defy what you think is decided for you and come at me, Neji. Let's settle this battle. Defy fate and destiny. Can I? Neji thought, looking to Naruto. Even if you lose, you'll still get something out of this battle. Naruto said, so just get up and fight me like a man, Hyuga Neji. Neji slowly got up, breathing in long, slow breaths to calm himself down. Who said that I was going to give up? I will win this fight. Neji claimed. Neji has changed, what is this feeling? Guy pondered. That's it. Let's go all out. Naruto announced as he and Neji charged at each other. They engaged in a battle of taijutsu, Juyuken against Juyuken. Blow for blow, Naruto and Neji were in a tight lock. It was not easy to decide who would win. And then, the battle drew closer to its end, it was time to decide the winner. You are within the field of my divination. They both shouted at the same time, the battle of the Hyuga Ryu was going to repeat itself once again, Hake, 2 fists. 4 fists. 8 fists. 16 fists. 32 fists. 64 fists. Neji was about to back off to think of another attacking plan. But Naruto was not done with his moves yet. Hake. 128 fists. Naruto called out. All the genins looked on in shock at the blonde ninja. 128 hits were registered to Neji's body, sending him hurtling to the wall. Luckily for him, Naruto did not have his Byakugan, or else he would have hit his Tenketsu instead of random spots on his body. Naruto stood there, cool and collected but slightly fatigued from the amount of chakra that he had focused to release to the palm of his hand. It was really straining without the Byakugan. Naruto looked to Neji, who was panting against the wall. Uzumaki Naruto. Neji called out to Naruto, slightly grinning, you really did defy fate and destiny. You really are the winner here. Naruto pulled down his face mask and gave Neji a very friendly smile. Neji smiled back, despite all his pain. Hayate looked from one fighter to the other. Victor, Uzumaki Naruto, Hayate announced, gesturing to Naruto. Medic Nins came to get Neji as Naruto cast his opponent one final look before pulling his face mask back up and walked up to his cheerful teammates and a very surprised Guy, Lee and their female teammate, Tenten. Kakashi was there as well. Wow, Naruto, you beat the Hyuga Neji. You even used his technique against him. That is one thing that I will never forget. Kiba exclaimed excitedly to Naruto. That was quite a powerful blow that you gave to Neji. Guy said, but I think that he was almost happy that you had beaten him. Naruto, you changed him. You felt that too, didn't you, Guy-sensei? Lee turned to his teacher. Yes, Lee, hopefully now, Neji will be one of the receivers of the Flame of Youth. Naruto shook his head. No matter how much better in attitude Neji could get, he knew that he would definitely not be a receiver of the Flames of Youth. Naruto walked over to Kakashi and Kurenai, smiling under his face mask. Congratulations on your victory, Naruto. Kakashi said. Naruto gave a wave to Kakashi and turned to face Kurenai. So did I do any well, Kurenai-san? Naruto mused, hands in his pockets. Let's just say that I'm giving you a present for your victory. Kurenai said, smiling at him, pull down your face mask. I need to see any damage done to you. Naruto did as he was told and showed his face to her. Suddenly, Kurenai gave him a kiss on the cheek, one that lasted 5 seconds. Kurenai backed off a bit and gave him a smile as he blushed. If you become a Chunin, I'll give you one here. She touched his lips. Even though he was not very near Naruto, Lee could literally feel the aura of determination that was being radiated by him.